Mages Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. It is... What the fuck is my name? I've had a beer and a half and I'm buzzed.
It's DeHole.
Doug DeHole. I always want to say Doug.
You did that last time too, sir.
I know. Doug is what, like, I think of Doug and Patty Mayonnaise. I don't know why.
Can I be Skeeter?
Fuck yeah, you could be Skeeter. Or you could be Roger. What was the dog's name? Pork Chop. There you go.
Pork Chop.
Who else was in the crew?
That's all I remember.
Yeah, sounds about right. Anyways, D-hole, looking like a D-hole right now. Sorry about that, guys. And we've got...
Jug. DeHole and Jug.
I don't know why I have such a hard time remembering this book. Anyways, hopefully that's fun for people. But
And what kind of Malazan podcast are we?
we are the only first-time readers, chapter-by-chapter podcast.
It's a good title to have.
Yes. So, come hang out with us. Watch me look like an idiot. Forget my name. Today, we have Chapter 15 of Midnight Tides, which means, after completing this, we have, 9 more chapters to read?
Yeah.
We're like, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through this book.
We're getting there.
Yeah. This one, I feel like this book's been the biggest, challenge to make time for. Just, I don't know. Things have been busy for me. A lot of grad parties recently. Working on my basement, which is getting really close to being done. And then next week I'll be gone in Boston. So I'll be in Boston for the 4th of July. So this will probably come out after that.
Is this a work-related thing? That you're going to Boston?
No.
Oh, okay. Grad party?
Nope. We're just going to go see my sister. So she lives in Baltimore, but somebody in her husband's family has a house like just outside of Boston on the Cape. So we're flying into Boston, going to go hang out with them. We fly out July 1st at like 7 o'clock at night. We land at like 11. And then we fly back to Minnesota at like 6 or 7 a.m. Sunday morning. So it's going to be a quick trip.
I thought your sister lived in the Carolinas.
She did in October, I think, 2 years that she's been in Baltimore. I helped her move up there.
I don't remember this.
Yeah. I think it'll be 2 years this October that she's been up in Baltimore. Yeah, her husband's in the military, and we got moved, restationed, whatever you want to call it. So it was Baltimore.
Okay. Nice. All right. Well,
Yeah.
should we list off our wonderful chain of patrons?
Yes, and if you would like to see video of me looking stupid that Justin edits out for everybody, and have your name listed here among these great people, then check out our Patreon. We have a pretty good time. Get a group chat and stuff, so it's a good time. But we've got Jan the Picker, Luciana Etrigan, Ryan the Topological, Damien Face in the Rock, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin He Who Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, Aaron Mott Irregular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, Alex the High Mage, Tyler the Great Raven, The Joyful Union, Tony the Watch, Steve Bottle Kegs, The Mortal Sam, John I'd Kill the Mule, Talk the Middle Child, Peter, Turin I Have Kittens, Brian Bug, and Mari of the Green Aja. Thank you one and all. It's been a couple weeks since we've been able to record, so it's, again, I know I've said it before, but it's always good to spout those names off, so thank you all.
Yeah, I would agree. And the chapter 15 epigraph here. Black glass stands between us, the thin face of otherness, risen into indifference, these sibling worlds. You cannot reach through or pierce the shade so distinct as to make us unrecognizable. Even in reflection, the black glass stands, and that is more than all, and the between us gropes but never finds focus or even meaning. The between us is ever lost. In the barrier of darkness, when the backs are turned, we do. God, why does it keep doing that? We do little more than refuse facing ourselves. And that is a preface to the Narek Absolution. Maracus Product. Product. I don't know.
Mirkus? I don't know, dude.
Miracus.
Not sure.
Maracus.
Not sure. Maracas? Anyways, that whole thing just makes me think of Saren in what chapter, Justin? Putting you on the spot right off the bat.
Chapter 1?
Was it
Chapter
really
2?
chapter? Very
Chapter
early
2?
in the book, anyways, when she like touches the black rock or whatever the fuck it is.
It would apply to this chapter too.
Yes, it does. But when I first read that, I didn't know that yet. But yes, very applicable here. So, all right, well, we're ready to get rolling on this chapter. We got a little bit to talk about here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Light and heat rose from the rocks, and the wraiths huddled in the cracks and fissures, waiting like bats for dusk. Saren paused to wait for Baruch. She set down her pack and took off her sweaty layers of padding. It peeled away like skin, even though she wore less than half of her kit. The rest was stored away. She couldn't hear anything more than 20 paces behind her and thought about backtracking, but then she heard some cursing and some scrabbling sounds. He had been hounded by wraiths the whole time. It was hard to sleep with the constant motion through the air and the movement at their peripheral vision. Their nerves were shot and they were exhausted. She looked to the sun and walked a few paces on the trail. They were nearly out of Edur territory. Another 1,000 paces, and then another day's worth of descent down to the river, since they didn't have wagons. Then they would be able to hire a boat to take them to Trate. Probably another day's worth of travel. She wondered if he would still hold her to the contract then. It seemed pointless, so she assumed he would release her, at least for the duration of the war. Then she could be free to head back to Letherii. But Baruch had said no such thing. In all actuality, he hadn't really said anything since leaving the Hirath village. She said they would rest here for a time, and Baruch asked why. Saren said he needed it. Hell, they needed it. Baruch said she didn't need it, and not to speak for him. He was fine. She just needed to get them to the river. Her pack held both of their supplies and food. She had cut him a walking stick, and that was all he carried. Despite all this, he looked ragged. Clothes were torn. Saren said they were resting. He could do whatever the hell he wanted. Baruch said he couldn't stand being watched. They were always watching, and the damn shades... he damned the shades as he kept on down the trail. She grabbed her pack and followed. The one thing she could agree with Baruch was that the sooner this was over, the better. After only a dozen paces, she had caught him and passed him by. When Saren had reached the border that had been agreed on over a century ago, Baruch had once again fallen out of sight. She dropped her pack and headed to the wall of black stone, remembering when she had touched it. Touched the odd yet welcoming surface. She put her hands on it and felt the warm healing flow into her. Beyond, the figures wouldn't stop moving, paid her no mind. She thought this was better than the endless spying of the wraiths. She put her forehead against the wall, closed her eyes, and heard whispering. It was a language similar to the Edur. She had a hard time translating it, but found some meaning. When he who commands cannot be assailed, cannot be defeated, and now he feeds on our rage, our anguish. Of the three, one shall return. Our salvation! Another voice called, the first a fool, and from each death power burgeons anew. Victory is impossible. There was no place for them. They only serve. They bleed out terror, and annihilation begins. Theirs as well. They wondered if she would come again. The one was certain she would come with her shining sword. She is the rising sun, and the rising sun ever comes. They noticed Saren. They noticed a mortal, two mistresses to the same hold. She is one, and she is here and now listens to their words. They wanted to steal her mind, her soul. They wanted her to let them out. Saren reeled away, shaking her head, and said, "Enough! No more! Please!" She sank to her knees, was motionless, and the voices receded in her mind. She thought she was no one's mistress. She was just a lonely lover of solitude, no place for voices or hard purposes, fierce fires. Like Hull, only ashes. But unlike the man she once thought to love, she had not knelt before a new icon of certainty. She wanted no new masters over her life, nor the burden of friendships. There was a voice suddenly behind her asking what her problem was. She said nothing, and that they had reached the border. Baruch said he wasn't blind. Saren said they could move a ways, then make camp. Baruch said she thought he was weak. She looked at him and said they were both sick with exhaustion. There was no point in being tough. He said he would show her tough soon enough. Saren asked about her contract. Baruch said it was over once they got to Trate, and he would absolve her of any further responsibility. She said that was fine and picked up her pack.
Rough goings.
Yes, indeed. I guess maybe we just bring this up now. If you're sensitive to like suicide, something we're going to be dealing with in this chapter. Reading through it the first time, I really didn't pick up on it. As I reread it, summarized it, like the stuff was fairly easy to pick up, or at least like apply to what I was reading. Even though it wasn't like I don't feel like Baruch was super obvious about it, but he gives out some hints, right? And even like in this first section, I think we get one, but he says something being like tough. He'll show her tough. I feel like that was kind of like a hint. And, there's like the saying that like, this might sound kind of bad, I guess, but there's people that talk about killing themselves, right? And the ones that talk about it generally don't do it. It's the ones who don't really talk about it that actually follow through, right? And I feel like he's kind of on that line. Like, he's talking about it, but he's not being obvious. He's not like, I'm going to fucking hang myself in my house. But he's dropping these hints, and like, he says he's going to release her from her contract and stuff. And these were just some of the things that I picked up upon on the reread and the summarizing. I'm not sure what you thought on that, Justin.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm in agreement. There's tons of hints sprinkled throughout these sections.
But they were not to me, they were not obvious the first time through.
No, you're 100% right. He's on that line, right? Where he's talking about it, but in a not I'm seeking help kind of way.
There's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
I think I actually only had maybe one thought on this section.
Oh, I was just going to say, which is weird. I feel like there's so much in here.
There is quite a bit, but I didn't really know what to like make of everything. But the one thing I pointed out is, so Saren, she touches this rock wall or whatever it is, so she's coming back to it. She was here earlier in the book, and she hears these voices. These things are wondering if she would come again with her shining sword. And I feel like they got to be talking about one of the, I guess they're not all sisters, but the cousins or relations, whatever they are, right? Menador and Sakul Ankata, and what's the third one's name?
Sheltatha Lore.
Must be talking about one of those, unless I don't really thing I could think of is that they're talking about Saren, but I don't think she's ever had a shining sword.
You don't, wait, say that again?
I think so these voices, when they're saying she would come back again, they must be talking about Sheltatha, Menador, or Sakul Ankadu. One of those three, or Saren. But I don't think Saren has ever had a shining sword.
No, we're talking about Menador, for sure. And it doesn't say anything about sisters. It just says, of the three, one shall return. Our salvation.
Okay.
that's weird because from what we understand about Mienendor is that she is the spawn of Osirk and Tiam. So she's Teist Leosin dragon, or Eliant. She's a mixture of Eliant and Teist Leosin. But I have it in my headcanon that the spirits inside of this rock are Tistandi.
Like wraiths, right?
Yeah.
But why aren't they outside with all the other ones? But I agree. I think they must be wraiths too. But
I think that it's like a peephole into their realm,
okay.
or into their hold, or
Whatever.
whatever that is. It's not necessarily the fallen Andi of this particular world, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because I guess I never really imagined light and dark as allies, because they're such opposite things, right? So I don't know what else to make of it, but I mean, that's kind of my thought on that particular piece, and it's got me a little jarred because I wasn't expecting that, and it kind of ruins my theory about
No.
about light penetrating dark and thus borning the Edur. So I maybe I'm probably wrong.
Another thing I'm just kind of thinking of now is with Baruch and his in these hints that he kind of drops us. Just this whole like pace of travel thing, I think, is one also, because Cern's like, we need to stop and rest, and he's like, no, keep going. I don't know if he's like wondering like if they just keep, maybe he'll have like a fucking heart attack or something on the way, and then he doesn't have to worry about it. I don't know. I just feel like that's like another thing. He's just like, he just doesn't care about himself anymore. So like, yeah, he probably feels like garbage, like trying to hoof it through these woods while he's being harassed by these wraiths. But he's just like, he's at that breaking point where he just doesn't care.
No, he does not care. He's being impatient, right? He doesn't want to rest. He just wants to get where he's supposed to go so he can do what he's going to do.
Yeah, he's got this all planned already in his head. And it's just these, and I didn't even think that deeply about it, like this pace of travel thing, like while I was reading it. This is all just like right now, but I'm like, okay, like I guess I can kind of see that in my head. That makes sense.
Well, I guess we'll find out more as we continue on.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about in that first section? I don't really have anything else. I mean, there's things there, I'm sure, things we probably didn't talk about, but I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I think that Baruch and Blackstone and Seren are probably the two primary points of interest. I did hear a major spoiler. Well, not a major spoiler about Seren. I was watching a TikTok video, and there's this girl who's reading Malazan, and she's at Midnight Tides, and she said that she was 2/3 done. So I'm assuming what I heard will be coming up. So
I think I know who you're talking about. I can't remember her name.
Really skinny, like super stark blue eyes, blonde hair.
I've seen another girl on TikTok. I can't remember her name right now, but I thought maybe that's who you're talking about, but no.
Yeah.
But I think she's beyond Midnight Tides now. She's just cruising through.
Is she the one with like a dice tattoo on her neck?
She's got like a septum piercing.
No, I don't know if I've ran across that one.
I'm going to look right now. I don't know if I don't know how I'm going to find it.
I guess we'll see what happens. I'm not really sure what I heard. I never would have expected. Still really, to me, not like a huge spoiler or anything. It's just unexpected. I'm not going to. We'll wait. But yeah. All right. Well, I'm just going to, while you do that, read my second summary here.
Sure.
And then, yeah, because it's just a little shorty.
Oh, I found her. Oh. The one I was talking about is Gwen.
Oh, yeah, I've seen Gwen.
The last bridge burner.
Yeah. Yeah, she's the one with the dice tattoos.
She got something on her neck, yeah. Oh, yeah, it is dice. You're right, yep.
Yeah, I would like to get her on.
Oh, okay.
She seems incredibly insightful.
I haven't watched, I've seen her. I haven't watched too many of like her whole videos or anything, but I've come across her. So, yeah, we could do that. I mean, if she's open to it.
You should do your thing. You're so much better at it than I am.
Okay, I will. While you're reading, maybe I'll do that now. Fuck it.
All right. Well, section 2 here. They built a small fire with the last of their wood. The wraiths, it seemed, cared nothing of borders, as they were seen scurrying across the edge of the flickering light. They seemed to have a renewed interest, and Seren suspected it was the spirits within the stone wall. She was now marked. She thought to herself that the spirits had said mistresses, as in two, and they think she is one of them. She asked herself, of which hold, though? She heard Baruch say that she was young when he first met her. Seren quit back that Baruch had been happy when they first met. Baruch said it was true, and he wore happiness a lot back then. Content to be a spy, his frequent betrayals, his deceits, and the blood that kept appearing on his hands again and again. She was confused and asked him what he was talking about. He reveals that on outward appearances, he appears as a merchant of middling wealth. Seren asked what he was in truth. He explains his truth was where dreams fade away, where self-worth crumbles, standing too afraid to move, watching your hands destroying every dream of everything you would desire, destroying your true self behind the mask. It's not helpful to speak the truth. She thought for a while, and then it dawned on her that he was being blackmailed. He didn't deny it. She asked if he was indebted. He said that the debts were small, and in repayment, he was asked to do something vile, a betrayal. That's why they got him, indebted anew, maintaining the secret of his crimes. He said it made it harder when you had a conscience. He said he envied those that didn't have one. She asked if he could not get out. He would not look up from the flames, but he replied and said, of course he would. She sensed something in his tone, but suggested that Baruch made himself unuseful. He tells her this is the way, and he's in a hurry to do just that. He got up, saying it was time to sleep. She didn't go to sleep, but rather stayed awake for a while, too tired to think, but too numb to feel fear. Above the fire, sparks and stars mingled without distinction. And hopefully on your reread, you probably picked out some of those clues.
The suicidal tendencies?
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know that I like that stuff stuck out to me or not. I'm not like looking to kill myself, but I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can understand where you would drop these hints and everything if you were in that mindset. And I don't know that I necessarily like that about myself right now.
It's one of those things where, like, even though all of that information is there, when you finally read that section, you don't see it coming.
For sure.
And it's not until you're rereading it that you're like, oh my God, the clues were all there. So,
but how often do you hear people say, like, I had no idea this person wanted to do that? And then, they show text messages or they talk about like conversations that they had and they're like, you fucking idiot, they dropped all sorts of clues for you.
Right.
Like it's obvious except when it's not.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. It's a weird thing, and like I don't know, I have this like weird fascination with death where like nobody really understands it, right? Who doesn't think about it? Like, what comes next? Is there something else? I don't know. I think about it a lot. Like, I'm not looking to kill myself. I don't want to get there any sooner than I need to, but like, what if this is just like one step? There is something else afterwards that's better or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
sorry, derailing things.
Yeah, no, you're on a philosophical journey here.
Fueled by alcohol.
Cheers, brother. All right. Hopefully that's something they have on the other side.
Yeah. But I do, like, I'm not kidding. Like, I think about it a lot. Like, I don't know. I wonder about it. Like, I don't understand it. Like not long ago, we had to put my parents' dog down, and love my parents' dog. But even at almost 40 years old, I don't understand. My brain cannot comprehend that they're not going to stand back up again. Like, she's not getting back up. Why? Why is that it? I don't get it, and now I'm getting a little emotional and like sad, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I feel like Randolph Thor. Like, why is that something that cannot be fixed? Why? It's just she's right there, the dog, the person, whoever, and I really struggle. So my wife's dad died a little over 4 years ago. He has a twin brother, looks just like him, sounds just like him, and I have the hardest time when I see him. It's better now, but I had such a hard time being around him because my brain could not like conceptualize like this is a separate guy. Looks just like my wife's dad, sounds just like my wife's dad, but it isn't him.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know. Getting a little deeper here than I thought, man.
No, it's all good. I guess I feel the same. I'm find myself thinking about these types of topics all the time, purely from a curiosity standpoint, but I don't have answers for you, sir.
I mean, nobody does, right? I mean, you hear people about die, and then they die, and then they get shocked back to life or whatever. And I mean, you get all sorts of stories.
Mm-hmm.
Did they see something? Did they not? Some say yes, some say no. Like, I walked to the light, and then I got there, and they said, nope, you're going back, or whatever. And like, how can you doubt those stories from somebody? I don't know.
I don't know. The mind is just not to be underestimated.
No.
So, but anyway, my first thought here, this part where she's kind of going, well, now I'm marked. And again, I believe that they're Andi spirits. Why is she marked? That was my question. Is it because she's got the Andi's interest? And so now, therefore, the Edur are watching her close type of thing? Because it seems like the Edur wraiths, or sorry, I get it now. Yeah. I answered my own question. The wraiths, which are Andi wraiths, seem to have a renewed interest. So
We haven't seen anybody else like touch this stone or rock or whatever, right? I
no.
mean, is it just simply that it? Is that why she's marked? Because she's the only one that's put her hands on it?
I mean, it did say that it healed her. Well, or she felt some type of healing energy. I don't know. Maybe she's. Yeah, I don't fucking know. I feel like we don't really know much about the Andi still. I feel like we know more about the Edur than we do about the Andi. And maybe the Andi slightly more than the Leosians. But those two, like, I don't know, they're still kind of being peeled away. And now I answered. It makes sense. The wraiths are in servitude of the Edur, but they still have an interest in Seren Paddock because she's been marked by the Andi spirits in the stone. So maybe it's like an Itkovian type thing where she'll like save their souls or something, or set them free, or she has a significant role in them.
I guess we will see.
Because here's my question. In Gardens of the Moon and Memories of Ice, we see a lot of Teist Andi, but they never talk about their ancestors being slaves to the Edur, right? Like, we don't hear any of that.
No.
So, but all of this happens prior to those events. So, do they somehow get let loose? And then Animander Rake picks them up and gives them a purpose? I mean, I don't know. But it's interesting, and I want to know more.
Hopefully we get more.
Yes. The second thought is a little detailed. I think we get more conclusive evidence, but this is just kind of where my mind was when I was summarizing it.
Sure.
So I looked in the back in the glossary and only found one mistress in any of the holds. One in the empty hold. Where the other one is, I'm not quite sure. Or maybe there are two that can claim it, but only one can take the spot. I wonder if maybe that's just the thought. So the empty hold in the back in the glossary has a mistress, but that role is not filled by anything. Like, we don't know who mistress is. So otherwise, the only other seat I see is the consort in the hold of the Elliot, that would be the closest thing to a mistress. So maybe Seren Padak is the mistress of the empty hold. And I would assume maybe perhaps Shadow Throne in some way, shape, or form that we haven't seen yet or hasn't been alluded to yet, which might explain the Wraith's sudden marking. Maybe the other mistress is Featherwitch, right? In the consort role, as it's often implied that Eudinus likes her, but she doesn't like him back. Eudinas, who might be the renewed rival in the hold of the Eliant. But these are just kind of like my train of thoughts, and I, even as I'm going through it, I'm not convinced of what I thought. So I think Mianandor is one of the mistresses that will probably take root in the empty hold.
Well, I don't want to like rain on your parade, and I guess I don't even know if this. I don't know if this is true 100% of the time, but like consort, I'm pretty sure is a male term.
You might be right.
Where like concubine would be like the female version of that.
Yeah, that's definitely Rain. You're good. Like I said, it's just.
You had such a detailed thought here. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It was just me using the glossary, right? And trying to like piece things together. But as you can see, it doesn't really amount to anything. And I kind of answered this question when I was summarizing my big ass section at the end here. I think Mianandor is one of the mistresses. And it sounds like Seren is one of the mistresses too. So you've got light and dark, right? If the Andi are marking her, and then you've got Mianandor, maybe light and dark are like, hey, maybe we started this shit, and it's clear that someone else is trying to fuck things up, so maybe we need to become allies, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, because we'll get more to that later.
Sure.
When Baruch is saying that that's when they got him, the vial, the betrayal axe, indebted anew, maintaining the secret of his crimes. So basically, it was a way of holding the carrot in front of him, like, hey, we know what you're doing, so you got to keep doing shit for us because we know what's up. And I just thought, like, that's heavy. You know, indebted because you owe someone money and for keeping your crimes a secret. Like, talk about...
Hopeless, trapped. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, so I can definitely understand why he feels the way that he does. And of course, you add that on to Letherii culture, right? Like, you know you're not getting out of that.
Yeah, like this, people kill themselves all the time, apparently.
And basically that kind of brings me to my next point. You know, she's asked, like, oh, well, can't you just not get out? Didn't look up from the flames, so that's an important piece. It's like he's not establishing eye contact with her. But he replies, sure. Of course I can, right? Like, that's intent right there. He knows exactly what he wants to do, and he's got no issues. Yeah, but it just took me by surprise how he voiced his intentions. We just, on first read, didn't know it yet. Like, yeah, it's right there.
Mean, it's just like you say, we're getting like the reread and a half here. Like, for sure, I didn't pick up on any of this shit the first time through, but summarizing it and rereading it, you're like, holy cow, this is so obvious what he's going to do. There's all these hints.
Which brings me to a philosophical question. Are we first-time readers?
I mean, yes.
But if we're rereading and summarizing, does that make us first-time readers?
We still have that first experience. I mean, I would say yes. I get what you're saying.
It's kind of,
we have an added benefit for sure of, I mean, taking our time and reading a chapter 2 or 3 times and picking things apart, talking to each other, which brings out other stuff from one another, you know, like, oh, I didn't think of this. And then we extrapolate X, Y, and Z. And
I feel like I'm going to blow your mind later. Like, legitimately, because it blew mine when I'm like, oh, no. Okay, I don't have any. Wait. Yeah. We'll get there, though. All right, last thought on section 2. He tells her that I will definitely make myself unuseful, and he's in a hurry to do just that. And, you know, at first, I interpreted that as him ready to just being done being indebted, which is kind of true. It's just, in fact, another precursor to what we read later. So there's a lot of setup that kind of makes I feel like I haven't really had much sympathy for Baruch up until this point, which is kind of crazy that Erickson can make you do that. Like, you feel for him in this moment. Like, you feel for what his heart is heavy upon. But up until this point, he's just kind of like this character that interacts with other characters.
Yeah, he's just kind of there. Like, I didn't really, it might sound harsh, like I didn't give a shit about him throughout like most of this. He's just kind of there. And then even like, I mean, then he's gone, which surprised me, but I still don't like, it's not like he's my favorite character or something, It's just like, why'd this happen? This is how it had to be. Like, it kind of doesn't make sense in a way in my mind.
That's fair. I feel the exact same way. All right. Well, those are all the thoughts that I had for that second section.
Sure. I wasn't expecting to get this like deep on this chapter, so especially maybe it's a little interesting when I've been drinking too. So we're getting kind of weird Derek here.
Hey, weird Derek is welcome anytime.
All right, section 3 here. By dusk the following day, the two travelers had found Craig's Landing. Its 3 shitty buildings were surrounded by troops, and at the dock there was an expensive-looking barge which flew the king's banner, and just below it, the Cetas. Baruch said there was a cadre here as they rode through the camp towards the hostel and dock. Sarah nodded and said the soldiers were the escort. There couldn't have already been engagements, could there? Baruch shrugged and said maybe at sea, but he had thought the war had already started. Saren stopped Baruch and pointed to 3 individuals. Baruch grunted. The 3 had come from a nearby tent. Baruch asked if she recognized the one in blue. She said it was Nikal Bara, Trate's resident sorceress. She was near as strong as the Sita. The man on her left was, let's see if I can do this, Erahathan, commander of the cadre in the Cold Clay Battalion. She didn't know the third. Baruch said it was Enedictal, who was Erahathan's counterpart in the Snake Belt Battalion. Together, they were the 3 strongest mages in the north. They intended a ritual. Saren set off towards them, but Baruch told her to stop. She didn't listen. She dropped her pack and caught the mage's attention. Nikal Bara gave her a sarcastic smile and said the errant smiled upon her. Saren said she knew they were going to attack, and they shouldn't do that. And Adictal said they don't take orders from her. Saren said they were going to attack the villages. Nikal Bara said only the ones that were close to the border, as those were far enough away to permit a full unveiling. Beyond those mountains, that is where the Edur armies have gathered, if the errant wills it. And Adictal said they would wipe the floor with the smug bastards before the war even really started. Saren said there were children. They said that was too bad as they moved into their positions. She shouted no, and when soldiers appeared, they told her it was this or fields of battle. Where did people die? They told her not to move, not to say anything. Baruch told her to let it go. Saren asked if they didn't think he would retaliate. Of course he would. Baruch said he might not have time. Maybe his own village? But what of all the others? There was a flash of light. As she turned, she only saw Nikal Bara. 200 paces was Enedictal. 200 paces in the opposite direction was Erahathan. There were more flashes, and the mages were double the distance away. Baruch said they were spreading out. This was a big fucking signal for my aliens friends, or just a big fucking ritual. A soldier said the Sita was working through these 3 while the rest of the cadre was spread out another league in either direction. 4 villages will soon be nothing but ashes. Saren said this was a mistake. Something was building between the sorcerers. Blue and green light grew taut, like lightning wound around the mages, like an invisible rope linking them. The glow was building like a sea froth, and it was crackling and sparking. The sounds grew into a roar, and while the rope of light shot out past the mages beyond the hills on either side. Darkness had been peeled back by the energy, the shadows dancing in the wild. There was a sudden shout. The rope heaved and sprang loose. Figures staggered as the wave went skyward. This wall swallowed the north sky and continued to grow. Saren saw a soldier stumble. He was at the base of the wave, and it stripped him of his armor, clothes, then skin and hair. Lastly, in a gush of blood, it devoured his flesh. Before the shape could crumble, it took his bones. All that was left was a boot. Saren sank to the ground, the only reasonable response to what she had seen. To fight the pull she felt, others did the same, but another soldier was dragged away, pulled away screaming into the wave. The roaring snapped like a breath caught in the throat, and Saren saw the base lift into the air like a curtain, rising to show the battered mountaintops. The wave diminished as it went north, eventually returning the black silhouettes of the mountains. In the corner of her sight, Saren saw Nicole Barra slump to the ground. There was a sudden light across the horizon to the north. The glow shot back into the sky like fiery arms and tentacles. What was happening quickly came to her, and she called for everyone to hit the deck. Trees were knocked over in unison, and then the sound hit. Saren was able to get up and notice the devastation around her, while Nicole Ibarra stood and looked undisturbed by the event. Darkness returned, and if there were fires in the distance, they were unable to tell. Baruch staggered to her side and said he didn't block it. It was as he said, no time to prepare. A soldier nearby exclaimed at the power, and Saren thought there was a good reason that Leather had never lost a war. Saren felt sick. She didn't think this was war. She didn't know what it was. It was mindless slaughter, as if the world itself had forgotten its dignity. No distinction between innocence and guilt, only condemnation by simply existing. She wondered if this was what must be done. Take the enemy's flesh and fill it with disease, and what is sick must be eliminated, so it doesn't spread. Baruch said there probably wasn't even time to suffer. Saren thought that was true and that the suffering was left to them. She thought all the names she knew. They were all dead. Baruch said they were all dead, and he needed to drink. Saren didn't move. She said there was nowhere to go. Baruch told her the tavern under the hostel was built solid enough to withstand a siege. That's probably where the soldiers went. He told her to come with him. He was in the mood to spend money. She looked around. The mages were gone. He grabbed her hand, and she allowed herself to follow him. It was a really dark section, and I don't remember, like, my first time reading it, really picking up on how just brutal this was.
They didn't hold anything back. They unveiled.
Yeah.
What seems to be the fullest extent of what they could do, they did. Not just like 8%, not 50, a fucking 100%.
Yes. My first thought here, just, Saren's telling him, like, hey, don't do this. And some soldier says, it's either this or a field of battle where people die. They told her not to move or not to say anything. And I'm just like, man, this sounds like they're about to use a fucking nuke. And then, we get a little bit further on here, and that's 100% what happens. They nuke them. The sound grows into a roar. A rope of light shoots out past the mages beyond the hills on the other side. Boom! Bomb going off. Village just fucked up. I mean, just everything gone. And it's just, I was really surprised. I don't know why I didn't catch all this on the first time through. I don't remember what I had going on when I was reading this the first time. But the summarizing and the reread is where I really got the full impact of this. Just, it's brutal. And it's also, like, the way this was written was a great visual. Like, it was very clear in my mind. When I slowed down a little bit to read it, summarize it, super clear. And I was kind of caught off guard here. I don't know if you have anything to add. Sorry.
You were caught off guard, sorry, with just how visual it was to you when you summarized it?
Yeah. Just how visual it was and just how cold and calculated it was. I mean, they're just like, yep, whoever's in this village is getting vaporized.
Well, and they said it was like, what, 3 villages? 3 or 4 different like Edur villages. Yeah, it's a dick move for sure. But their perspective is that like these are nothing but piss ants. So like, if they want a war, great. Let's show them our full force. Let's unveil all of our cards and knock them out of the water right away. But we know that the Edur know what they're gonna do, right?
Yeah, and like I get it. I mean, if you're in a war, I don't. To me, there's not like anything that's really off limits. Like you do what you got to do to win to survive, right? Like, so I
Yeah.
understand that side of it. I get it, but it was just like there's no warning shot. We're just dropping a fucking nuclear bomb on you, and I
Mhm.
was just like, whoa! I did not expect that.
I would agree.
My next thought here was just this wall that swallowed the north sky and continued to grow. And I'm wondering if it reminds you of Gardens of the Moon, like where there was that fucking light that just shot up into the sky. Was that Tattersail?
Are you talking when they were at the Siege of Pale?
No, it was after that. There was just this like pillar of light that shot up into the sky that could be seen for like miles around. Many miles. I don't remember how far, but that's what it made me think of.
I don't remember that.
What?
I don't remember that. But it was like near the beginning of the book?
I would think it was probably first half. Somebody can help us out and let us know, but it definitely reminded me of Gardens of the Moon.
Interesting. Wow. I mean, that was 4 years ago, so.
True. But I felt like it was a big moment. Like, God, I think it was. I'm almost positive it had something to do with like Tattersail and just this, like beam of light into the sky. Just a pillar of light. That's the term in my head, is a pillar of light.
I don't know. Great question.
That's all I had. I did think it was sad when I didn't name the names here, but Sarah's thinking like Rulad.
Troll.
Who else?
Troll. Udanas. The Sengar brothers.
Yeah.
Banan. Yeah.
Everybody's just dead. And we know they're not, but I mean, she doesn't know that.
Yeah, she does not. Well, are you ready to move on to my next shorty?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Seren asked what happened. Baruch said that she was in shock, and understandably so. He said that he had some tea for her. The river's current pulled the barge along. She took the cup from his hands. Baruch said that they would be there by dusk and should soon be able to make out the skyline, or at least the smoke. He then added that soon she would be free of him. She said that wouldn't happen if there was a war going on. Baruch said regardless, he intends to release her from the contract. She looked over at him, struggling to focus. There had been a night in the tavern. There were loud soldiers. Scouting parties were to head north the next day, or rather today. She asked why he would do that. Baruch revealed that his need for her has ended. She sipped her tea and said that the Edur will sue for peace, and if anything, Baruch will find himself busier than ever. He nodded, but Seren sensed resignation from the merchant. She said that she had forgotten and that he must make himself unuseful. He agreed and said that his days as a spy were over. She said good, and then asked if he would stay in Trate. He said that Trate was his home, and he never intended to ever leave. She drank more of the tea. She tasted mint and something else that thickened on her tongue. Her next words were slurred as she stated that he had poisoned her tea. Baruch said that he had to, since last night. He needed her to not be able to think properly. He assures her that she will be safe and a dockhand will be sent to wake her up. Slurring still, she asks if this was yet another betrayal. Baruch admits that it is his last. He tells her to remember this as best as she can. He tells her that he didn't want her help. She heard him say from a distance, and that she has always held his heart. My first thought, just the river's current pulled the barge along. I think this was a strange transition to me. The previous section, they're talking about going to some tavern to spend some coin. And next, they're on the barge floating down the river. The passage of time was just a little jarring for me, but it's explained a few paragraphs later. But maybe that should have came first. I don't know. But
Yeah,
he
I see where you're coming from. It moved along maybe a little too fast. But maybe that there was something there. Maybe it got edited out. And they just thought like, okay, well, like it makes sense. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I think it's there to serve the purpose that, she's clearly been drugged before.
Yeah.
This is not the first time that she's being poisoned. And then here's some more foreshadowing to what we are eventually going to get to. He added that soon she would be free of him.
I think there's some even before that. Sorry to interrupt you, but he says the Edur, or Saren says the Edur will sue for peace, and Baruch will be busier than ever. And he just kind of nods, and I just get this really like disinterested like nod, like,
Right.
yeah, you're right. But you're 100% right. Like, yeah, him never intending to leave is for sure a signal.
Yeah. As dark it is, it's very brilliantly done, in my opinion. It's just, again, like we talked about, it's crazy how much you miss on first read through. If you're following along with us, hopefully this isn't as jarring as it was for us, because we pretty much alluded to it since we started this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't even ask you. Like, I didn't expect Baruch to kill himself. I was pretty surprised when he died. I wasn't expecting that at all.
No, not at all. And then when you go back and read it, you're like, oh my God, you pick up on all these like signs. This is his intent. This is what he wants to do. This is why he doesn't care about the wraiths. Yeah, they're annoying, but whatever. What's it going to matter in a couple of days?
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool.
All right. Well, you ready to move on?
Let's do it.
There was pain behind her eyes as she blinked them open. It was night and she was covered by a robe. The faint creak she heard told her that she was on a barge that happened to be tied to a stone pier. Someone put a mug in her face and told her to drink. She didn't recognize the voice and pushed the mug away. The man said it was just ale and it would help her head. The man told her she would be hurting, and this always worked for him when he had drank too much. Saren said she wasn't drunk. The man said whatever the case may be, her sleep wasn't natural, but he needed her to get up. He needed Saren to understand it was his wife. She's sick, and it's late, past 3 a.m., and he doesn't like leaving her this long. But the pay was good, more than an honest man makes in a year, just to sit with her and make sure she gets up and walks. The man said he had a daughter once, but a noble took her because of debts. She might be alive. She might not. He went through girls, that guy did, back in Letherii. They couldn't stay here after that. Couldn't take the chances of seeing her body turning up. She was tall, like Saren was. Anyways, drink some ale. She took 3 quick swallows. Saren said she had to go, and he had to go to his wife. He asked her if she could walk. She asked where her pack was. The man said the other man took it, and she would collect it in the shed behind the house. He was very specific about that. She wasn't to go in the house. She got to the ladder and asked for help and thanked the man. The city was quiet other than a couple of dogs fighting behind a warehouse somewhere. As she made her way down to the street, she started to feel better, just as the man had said. She found Baruch's house where there were no lights on, and she kicked the door in. This woke the neighbors, who then called for guards, and somewhere a bell rang. She made her way into the house and found Baruch hanging from the rafters. A scream escaped her that turned towards a hoarse sob. She thought to herself that he had held her heart. Well, there it is.
There it is.
What do I have here? This man's talking about how this dockhand, right? Sounds like he's got kind of a sorry existence. Doesn't make much money. He took this job because it pays more than he's going to make in a year, but his wife's sick and he doesn't want to leave her for long. And then you find out a little bit more that he used to have a daughter, but because of their debts, some noble took her. And she might be alive or she might not be. And just like you and I are both parents, what a horrible thing to be left wondering about. Like, I can't even like fathom or imagine. That is the point where I would kill myself.
Oh, I wouldn't kill myself. I would be walking the canal.
I don't think I could deal with that. If I just had to wonder if my kid was alive or not,
Oh
I
no,
would just assume the worst.
I would make sure that they're alive because whoever bought her would be dead, and I would be walking the canal.
But it's just brutal, and just like the story didn't really need that type of world building put into it, but it just adds such an extra layer, I think, like just so much more desperation and how cruel it is, like it's just a whole nother layer.
Do you think that this is the reason why he has weaved so much comedy into this book to kind of offset these darker themes? Because it is a sad story. Troll tells us that at the end of House of Chains, is that it's a sad story. So do you think that might be why he's, woven in comedy into these darker themes?
Maybe. And I think that would be a good thing for us to ask about to Steve.
All right.
Because
great.
it very well could be, and maybe it's unintentional. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Knowing Erickson, I don't think that this would be unintentional at all. I definitely could see him designing that.
Yeah. But I would still be interested to see what he has to say about it.
That's fair. Yeah.
And then we get to the moment, I guess. I don't know what else to call it besides the moment, but Saren finds Baruch hanging from the rafters, right? And just like, it sucked reading that because I was caught so off guard. I didn't see it coming. But again, as we've talked about, like rereading it, looking it back, it's pretty obvious. But the first time through, you just don't see those things. And like, we've had plenty of talk in this book about people killing themselves because of their overwhelming debt that they've accrued or been born into that they can't escape. But I didn't think Baruch had that much. And I guess I'm not sure because when I was summarizing this, I didn't realize that the very last sentence, she thought to herself that he held her heart. I think maybe I misconstrued that a little bit, thinking she cared for him. But that was like the last sentence in your last section where he told her that she had his heart. I didn't know, and I don't feel like there was a lot to indicate that Saren was that important to Baruch.
I mean, I think it's the devils are in the detail, right? Like, there has to be a reason why, Baruch hired Seren as the Aquator in this particular journey to Edur lands, right? But also, it seems like they have a past because they mentioned in their conversation the couple, I think in my first section, where they were talking about she was young when they had first met and Baruch was faking happiness.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing just, I don't know, just caught me so off guard, and I was very surprised by all of it, and as I'm sure you were too.
Yeah, I was definitely not expecting that. And also, I think it was chapter 13, we were talking about Baruch and whether he would make it. And we're both right. He made it, but he didn't make it.
Yeah.
Because I think you were saying something about you think that a lot of people from this book are going to die. And I don't know if you still feel that way or not.
Yeah, I kind of do.
But yeah, Baruch, I guess, is kind of the first to go, right?
I mean, I guess there was Roulade, but he came back. My boy. Don't roll your eyes at me.
I don't even know how. He's such a dick.
Dude, like we talked about, like when we get done with this series, we should get like Malazan tattoos. And like right now in my head, I have two in my head. I would have Bruchalion being cut down by the arrows in Memories of Ice. Like that still is such like an iconic scene to me. And I feel like I'm going to have something for Roulade. I don't know that if it's something that we've seen yet or if it's something coming. Now, those would be the two.
You should get the coins falling off his dick.
I don't know.
I tried, y'all. I tried. Oh, all right. Well, you ready for my first long section here? It's about like 3 pages. Grab your popcorn, y'all. All right. Smoke rose from the north. Henradi Kalag's face was expressionless as he stared at the distant devastation. Beside the chief of the Marood, Troll was silent, wondering why Henradi had joined him at this moment, when the mass of warriors were in the midst of breaking camp. The chief said that Hull Badik spoke true, that they would strike preemptively. At least 4 villages were destroyed, including Troll's own. Troll thought to himself that there was no going back now. There was nothing left of their homes. Granted, their homes were all empty, outside of a few hapless Narek. It was nothing but ashes now. Henradi Kalag tells Troll that 3,000 of their allies arrived last night. He explains that apparently they know Troll well, if only by reputation. The sons of Tomad Sengar, but Troll especially. The one that leads them is called the Dominant, or the Dominant. He is a hulk of a man, even for one of his kind. There is more gray than black in his name. He is named Banaga. Troll cut him off and said that their allies have been just as sorely used as they have. He adds that he does not know this Banaga. Henradi restated that this dude knows Troll. Troll turned away, and Kalag said that Troll better accept the truth of things, and quickly. Troll said that one day he would know Henradi's mind, the one hidden well. Masag had bent him to his will, and now he blindly followed Rulad, the usurper. He asked if this was what the unification of the tribe was intended to mean. The Marood chief said that the words like usurper would get Troll killed or cast out. Troll grunted and said that Rulad was with the Western Army. Henradi cut him off and said that Rulad now controls the Wraiths. Troll called this out. Spies among them now? An emperor who fears his own? An emperor immune to criticism? And someone must speak reason. The Marood chief told Troll to speak no more as he rejects all that Troll has said. He tells Troll that he is being foolish and that his anger is born of envy. He turned and walked back down the track. Troll found himself alone again on a ledge high above the valley of the pass. He looked down and saw the mass swarm amongst the trees, 3 land armies and 4 fleets, and divided among them was the entire population of the Edur, gathered in one place. He saw near the edge of Fear's command area squat, fur-clad figures. The thought to himself, their allies, the Jek, summoned by the Teist Edur they had killed. Worshippers of the sword. The night just passed. A nightmarish display of sorcery was on display by the Letherii Mages. Brutality as its intent. This was clearly going to be a war where no quarter was given. Troll wondered if his brother would answer with the same brutality. He thought to himself that they had no homes to go back to, and they were committed to taking over the south. He wondered if they would raid the cities of Lether. He drew a deep breath. He needed to talk to Fear again. But his brother had made him the commander of this army. He had leads half a day ahead, and they come within first sight of High Fort. And they would come within sight of High Fort. His army would cross the Cater River at the narrow chute, which spanned by a stone bridge centuries old. Then they would swing down and join those lead elements. There would be a battle. For Fear, the time for questions was over. He wondered why he still had questions. His mind would not rest from his worries of what was to come. Troll made his way down the track. There was a contingent of Jek present in Fear's command area, but he told himself he didn't have to talk to them. Edur warriors were readying themselves. Women were chanting protective wards of invisibility over the entire camp. Wraiths were darting between trees, heading south. Here and there, demonic conjurations towered. Once, not so long ago, summoned demons had been rare. The ritual required deception to bind the demons. They were now required to fight in a war not of their making. Fear was standing near the remnants of a hearth, surrounded by 2 of his Kristnan. Henradi Kalag stood off to one side. A Jek was approaching, likely the one the Marood chief had spoken about. Filed teeth smiled, and Banaga said to Fear that the one who they could not defeat approaches. Fear replied that they would find no ice fields to the south. The Jek said that no other army gives them such a terror. He explains that it didn't matter if they veered or assembled, they could not best Troll Sengar. Never before have they seen such skill. Fear said that of those he's trained, Troll remained the finest. Troll said enough of this. He asked Fear if the Emperor has spoken to them through the Wraiths. Did he voice his satisfaction as the failed attack by the Letherii, or does he voice his rage? One of the Kristnan said that not one Edur was lost, and they have Hull to thank for that. Troll said, yes, the traitor, but what of the Narek that were still in the village? The Warlock shrugged and said that they couldn't command them. Fear told Troll to let go of his anger, as it was the Letherii that attacked. Troll said this was true, but now it was their turn. Fear revealed that the Wraiths have sighted an army ascending to the pass. Troll thought to himself, it was too soon. Banaga laughed and suggested he send his wolves forward. Fear said that the Letherii army is not yet at the bridge, and he expects that they will contest their crossing if the Edur don't get there before them. Fear said that at the moment it appears that the army was marching slowly and not expecting much opposition. Henrati said that that was obvious, as what commander would seek an engagement upslope? He said that this was a probe, and at first contact they will fall back to High Fort. He suggests to Fear that they should bloody them all the way back. Fear instructs Banaga to send his troops forward, observe the enemy, but remain unseen. The Kristnan that had spoken before warns Fear that their cadre of mages are attached to that army. Fear nodded and said to withdraw the Wraiths outside of a dozen or so, to make it appear as if they're residents of the area. The Letherii must remain unaware. He tells the Maru chief that their warriors must be ready to march, and asks if he would lead them. Henrati said he would have the warriors underway before mid-morning. Troll watched the chief walk away and then said that the cadre of mages would prove troublesome. The Kristnan grunted and said that they were the match. They are linked to Hanan Masag, and Masag is linked to the Emperor himself. They tell Troll that the power they now call upon is more vast and deadlier than any Edur have seen before. Troll asked if that didn't concern them. What was the aspect of this power? Did they even know? They answered that the power comes to the Emperor through the sword. Troll said that this was no answer, but was cut off by Fear telling him no more. He asked his brother if he had assembled a unit from their village. Troll said that he had 50 warriors, half of them unblooded. Fear told Troll to lead them to the bridge and take positions on the other side and wait for Henrati's forces to reach him. He told himself there was no point in arguing any further, as he made his way to where his company awaited. Independent thought had been abandoned, and in its place a solid notion to question nothing. Troll couldn't help himself, though. Even as he saw the anger grow in the faces around him, he simply could not stay silent. The momentum was building, and the stronger it grew, the more he felt like he had to resist. Driven into extreme opposition, and he sensed it was a battle he would not win. His warriors were waiting. Troll knew them all by name. He knew that many of them resented being under his command, as Troll's dissatisfaction with this war was well known. Troll joined the warrior he had chosen as his captain, Alhrada An, and had trained alongside Troll, specializing in the Marud Cutlass. The warrior also hated him, for reasons he did not know, although he figured that Alhrada had probably found a new reason. Troll called his captain, but Alhrada would not look Troll in the eyes. Alhrada was darker than any other Edur he had seen. Shadow wraiths swarmed around him, which was a strange detail unique to the warrior. Troll tells Alhrada to inform the sergeants they're heading out and to take minimal equipment as they have to move quickly. The captain said it was already done, and they were just waiting for Troll to return. Troll walked over to his own gear and grabbed what he needed. When he turned, he saw his company was all on their feet, all eyes fixed on him. He tells them that they need to run to the south end of the bridge. He instructs that once they're through the pass, each squad will send out a scout to make his own way off trail towards the bridge. One sergeant spoke and said that if they leave the trail, they will be slowed. Troll responded and said then they best get a move on. Conarth, the sergeant, persisted in his argument that going off trail would lose him speed. Troll said that he didn't trust the trail beyond the bridge and to quit bitching and move out. This was not beginning well. Sergeants were not expected to voice challenges publicly. One squad in the lead, followed by Troll, and then Alrada's squad took up the rear. The company set out for the pass. Troll found pleasure and relief in the pace they were setting. The trees started to thin out the closer they got to the summit. By mid-morning, they stopped at the south end of the pass to rest, drink, and eat a small meal. Now that they were rested and fed, the warriors formed into their squads and then went into the forest on either side of the trail. Troll decided to join the squad led by Conarth. They were in the forest on the trail's west side. They then began the slow descent. Another squad was further west, while the third trailed 15 paces back. An identical pattern had been formed on the east side. Conarth made his disapproval of Troll's decision to join them plain. He wanted to pull him back, but Conarth was not listening. Suddenly, they stopped halfway down the slope. Ahead, the point was speaking with Conarth. After a moment, he made his way back towards Troll. It was reported that Troll that there's a scout on the trail, Fared, likely serving the Letherii army. Troll looked back at the rest of his squad and pointed one out and told him to come closer. He tells Badar to go back to the third squad. He tells the squad to choose a warrior to head back up slope and then cut back onto the path. He is then to make his way down as if he was on point. He tells Badar that once he has delivered the message to return back to Troll. Badar nodded and then slipped away. Conarth asked what they do. Troll tells them that they will wait, then join the squad to the west, and together make their way behind the Fared scout, thus setting the trap. They asked about the squads to the east. Troll said that this was a good question, and said that all they could do was hope that the east squad saw the Fared as well. He thought to himself that it was a mistake to separate the squads without any way to communicate. A short time later, Badar returned and gave them the signal to proceed. Troll told his warriors to follow, and they set out to join the squad to the west. Troll quickly relayed his plan to those 15 or so warriors. They then descended another 60 paces further down slope before waving the warriors to the main path. Conarth gestured to one side and said that Rethel's squad was waiting and that they had anticipated Troll. After moments of staying in their positions, a light thumping was heard. The Fared was a blur, then flashing past. Spears darted out, shin high, in an effort to trip him. The Fared leapt up. Troll heard a curse, and then a spear raced past his head, landing in the Fared's scout's back. The scout tumbled and came to a rest on the path. The dust settled. Troll stepped out to examine the body. The scout he saw was a boy, maybe 14 or 15 years old. Troll said that they had killed a child. Conarth said to Troll that it was the Letherii, and that they used children in war. Conarth turned to face uphill and congratulated Badar on becoming blooded. The third squad appeared, and Alrada said that they had made their first kill. Troll felt sick. He told Conarth to move the body somewhere off trail and to cover the blood with dust. They needed to move on.
Nice job, dude.
Thanks.
It's I feel like it's been a little while since a chapter's been lopsided, but this one was definitely lopsided in your favor.
It's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yep. What you got for us?
I feel like I got a fair amount. The first one is the Marood chief is saying that Halbadic spoke true and that they would strike preemptively. And maybe I'm just missing something, but I thought Bryce. The King Discanar brought Bryce in to discuss war tactics in the previous chapter. And I got the impression that they knew Hull would reveal insider information of Letherii tactics. And the king was counting on it. So why play into it?
I don't know.
Like, why strike preemptively if you know you're going to miss? Because
unless You think you think you know what he's gonna do, but then you think like, well, maybe he's not gonna do it because we know he's gonna do it, so he's not gonna do that. They just like outplayed themselves, maybe.
Maybe someone can explain that. Or maybe I'm missing something. I'm probably missing something, but it kind of seems like King Discanar was expecting for Hull to reveal the preemptive strike, which is how the Edur, no Edur was hurt or injured or killed, but then why waste the resources to do it?
Sorry, relay that, run that by me one more time.
Well, we read earlier that they unleashed this whole thing.
Yep.
You know, why do that if they know no one's going to be there?
Well, they must not have known nobody was going to be there. They thought somebody was going to be there.
I don't know. It's all good.
Or I guess you're just knocking some huts over and maybe you piss them off. I don't know.
I mean, I guess at the very worst, right? Like, you leave them without homes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Now, as Troll pointed out earlier, like, they really don't have anywhere to go. So maybe that's the point, is now they can't turn back. They're kind of like forced into this war.
And I think they said they killed a few Narek, but
yeah, nobody cares about them.
No.
This next thought, I hope you get, but I can't really.
No, I was looking at that already and I was cracking up.
Okay. Well, I was telling my partner, Danny, about this character named Banaga. She said it with a different. She said it with a different vowel somewhere in there.
Sure.
And in the 9 years that we have been together, this is the one time where I repeated what she said.
Really?
Yes, where I repeated what she said. She had a blast with that. So,
aside from that, can I say how fucking awesome it would be to have like your name, like you're known as the Dominant?
Yeah.
Also, Jan had asked me at one point if we knew what the Jek were yet, and I'm pretty sure he said you were not correct in your thinking
that they were soul taken.
Well, no, we know that, but there are clues, but obviously we have not figured it out. But in this, the way they were described at one point really made me think of Talan Imus. I don't think they are. I don't know what the fuck.
I already thought that they were Talan Imas.
I know you did. I know, but there was some description, just like with the shit that was like adorning them, really made me think that. But I can't believe that they are. I don't know. So I don't.
So Jan said that I was incorrect. What did he say I was wrong about?
I don't know. I'd have to go back through our messages and look. So
fair enough. I mean, I'm sure I'm wrong about a shit ton of stuff, but I'm pretty confident that the Jek are Talan soul taken a mass. I'm starting to notice a little bit of a pattern, is that it seems we get a little bit more revelation around the different races breeding with each other, thus producing other races, right? Yeah. Maybe the Edur are really just a procreation of light and dark, but I don't know. And they rebelled in some way, shape, or form because they're not quite light and they're not quite dark. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, this is the cool part, is like, I'm probably wrong, and when eventually that does get revealed, I know that I'll have answers.
True.
So that was kind of my funny moment talking about this with my significant other. She had a blast with that.
That's a funny moment.
Yep. This next thought, he turned and walked back down the track, and at this part in the section, it said that it didn't occur to Troll to see if Henrati had lost his shadow. And this was kind of jarring to me. And there's got to be a significance to that statement. So I'm like, okay, well, why would someone lose their shadow in this world, in this book, right? Makes me think that shadows are not necessarily cast by the sun, but maybe their affiliation to their gods, right? Father Shadow and his daughter are worshipped by the Edur. And so you think that this is a symbol of a change of loyalty they serve the new god, the crippled god. So that's kind of my philosophical
Interesting.
take, right? Like, Henrati, the Marood chief, and Troll have a conversation. And Troll, again, is kind of questioning, like, the Marood, like, hey, Hanan made you bend the knee in the sake of unification, and now you just blindly follow my brother? Like, help me make sense of that. And then as Henrati leaves to go to Fear, his brother Fear, he noticed that he didn't have a shadow. But there's no other explanation given. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just kind of stated that. And that's where I'm like, well, why? So this was my attempt at deducing that. Okay. The dominant said to Fear that the one that they could not defeat approaches. And, I know that in that particular chapter, I think it was like chapter 7, chapter 9, something like that. Chapter 7. I don't even fucking remember. I've been bad about it this season.
Come on, Justin.
They questioned whether Troll accomplished, or it was kind of made to be that like he was dying, or we had some questions about whether or not he actually accomplished the thing that he did in the ice waste. And it was just nice to have like a solidified confirmation that actually did occur.
That he did open a can of whoop ass?
Yeah, he couldn't crushed him by himself. It was cool to have that affirmation. And then again, a common theme in this particular section is Troll is questioning almost everybody that he's interacting with. The Krishnan, Fear, the Marood chief, even some people within his own squad, right? And Troll was just like, you tell me that this power is more vast than anything we've ever seen before, but why doesn't that concern you? What's the aspect of this power? Do you even fucking know? And it bothers me so much that Troll seems to be the only one questioning things. And maybe others are, but just keeping quiet about it because they're afraid. But why is Troll the only one who is open about this questioning?
I think this must be kind of part of why he gets shorn eventually, right? Because he's the only one asking the hard questions.
Right. Yeah. And, that's kind of our running theory, is that what leads him to the prologue in House of Chains. But god damn. Next thought. It's just like, it's so stupid to me how they could just blindly follow. But I mean, I guess I get it. I feel like Troll thinks that because no one will side with him, that he's the one that's wrong. Like majority rules.
You're talking about following Roulade?
Yeah.
He's convincing.
Well, he's got you.
It's not saying a lot.
Yeah, whatever.
Got a good chuckle out of you. But he is. He's like that commanding presence. He just takes the room whenever he talks.
But it's not even him talking. It's the crippled god's words, right? Roulade is essentially AI, right? He is AI. Roulade is entering a prompt in his mind, and the crippled god is giving him a response.
I mean, we had that. We didn't have that conversation.
You hate AI. So
I do hate AI.
You gotta hate Roulade now.
Because Roulade said, like, well, he gives me little things, or however it was worded, like he's dropping things for him. But I don't think that's quite the same thing. It's a slippery slope for sure.
I'm just gonna be like Troll here and just question it. Just don't shorn me for it.
Fair. All right. Well, no promises.
Well, maybe this will surprise Erickson. We're the living embodiment of this book. All right. Well, next thought. Driven into extreme opposition, he sensed that it was a battle he would not win, right? So kind of going along the lines of what we were talking about. And, we know that this is the case, that he's on the complete opposite side of everybody else. But it's really kind of cool, as sad as this is, to see how things transpire for Troll. And I think it's just the tip of the iceberg. It starts with those around him, warning him of his words, but then it's going to eventually progress, right? What exactly that looks like, I don't know, but I don't think it will be more verbal warnings, but not quite the status of short. So I kind of wonder, what is the next step after these verbal warnings, right? Like, eventually people are going to get tired of this shit. I'm sure it's going to get back to Rulad. I mean, we do see him later being said he's in a foul mood.
That's a good point, and I haven't thought about that. What is the progression from talking smack to being shorn?
But we're getting tidbits of it. Yeah.
It might be razor thin.
Right. It literally could just be next occurrence. Boop. So, and then there's this weird, call out about El Hrada was darker than any of the Edur that had, he had seen. Shadow Wraith swarmed around him, which was a strange detail unique to the warrior. And of course, this very well may be what Steven Erikson is trying to drive you to think, which then makes me think that it's wrong. But is it possible that El Hrada is Tystandi? And I only say this because of the whole Shadow Wraith detail. And Andi, that maybe an Andi that didn't like the route his race was headed or going. He just decided to pack up, and maybe this is the, I was going to say the dead Edur that we saw in Memories of Ice, next to that river or crevasse or something like that.
Oh, you think that's going to turn up still?
Yeah, I think we'll eventually get it. I mean, we have to, right? I feel like this war isn't going to conclude until almost towards the end of the series. I think this is just the beginning. I don't think it's going to end in this book. I think it's going to be a continuation.
I think we'll probably get a pretty good ending to this book that will solidify the ending, but maybe not necessarily the series. So I kind of agree with you and kind of don't.
I guess there's only one way to find out, right? Yeah. So
we can read on and find out.
Apparently there's a drinking game. I feel like I saw in one of our YouTube comments. It's either read on and find out or headcanon. So we need to come up with a new word.
All right. We'll figure it out.
Hey, if people are drinking to us, I'll take it.
Hey, I'm drinking to us.
I wish I could join you.
I mean, you could.
This part where sergeants were not expected to voice challenges publicly. And again, here's where I find this a little hypocritical. Granted, it's a little bit further down on the totem pole, but it's okay to do it to Troll, but not okay if Troll does it to Rulad and anyone else that will hear. And I'd like to say it's the first red flag, but sadly it's not. So it's just kind of calling out a little bit of hypocritical nature that it is for a sergeant to challenge his commander directly and in public, but it's not okay for Troll to do that with Rulad.
I mean, there's kind of a scaling of power, right?
Right. Isn't Troll kind of a sergeant to Rulad?
I don't know what he would equate to, I guess, but I mean, yeah, I get where you're going.
Yeah. It's suspicious. And it doesn't sit well, right? I just wanted to call out mainly for those that are following along for the first time, but they were talking about how they were positioned on the left and right of the path. And so basically there's 6 squads total at this point. They're both creating a triangle pattern on the east and west side of the path. Knowing that helps me kind of visualize their formation as they're heading, they're descending down the mountain.
I did not pick up on the triangle thing, but
yeah,
that's neat that you picked up on it.
So my last thought, of course, is probably the saddest part of this particular section. It said that the far ed was a blur, then flashing past. Is this supposed to give us the sense that he's running?
That's what I got.
Yeah, he's jogging down the
He's hauling ass.
Yeah. Spear rushes past Troll, and next thing they know, they've killed a 14 or 15-year-old child, right? Like, my daughter just turned 14 2
Poor
days
as hell,
ago.
man. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday to your daughter.
I will relay that to her. Those were all of my thoughts. I kind of want to talk about this whole like blooded becoming or this unblooded becoming blooded. It's fucking bullshit. Like that's the shit that pissed me off. And Troll saw it coming like 2 chapters ago when him and Fear have this conversation about this exact scenario. Troll's not wrong.
Because it's a kid? Is that the part that pissed you off?
No, it's the part that like this untrained person. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it is about killing the kid. Like, I'm sorry, but that shouldn't give you honor.
But in his defense, he didn't know it's a kid, really, right? Like this person is running really fast. I mean, it does take some skill to hit him with a spear.
Right, but wouldn't you wait for orders?
Didn't they kind of have orders? Like they knew they were taking him out, or that's how I felt.
No, they were waiting. They were setting a trap. To me, a trap kind of seems like interrogation. You know, like questioning, like, who are you actually with the Letherii? Like, that's something they don't know. They have no idea. We don't even know if they were working with the Letherii. They're just assuming that.
Yeah,
And
but
therefore,
the situation changed when he tried to run. So you're just gonna let him go?
but he's jogging down the path, right?
I don't think he was jogging. He was sprinting.
Right.
He was getting away. So if he gets away, then you're fucked.
But if the Letherii are coming north and the Edur are coming south, and the Fared is running in your direction, what does it tell you? They're not with the Letherii. They're running for their life towards help, right? Towards what they assume are their allies in the Edur.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess maybe you could be right.
So, and that's the shit that pisses me off is like, 1, they didn't wait for a command. 2, they could have had the but this is the issue with unbloodied warriors is they don't have any experience. Like, to me, unbloodied means you have shadowed bloodied warriors in confrontations, but you are weapons off. You got your safety is on, it's never to be off. You are watching and learning. That is your role as an unbloodied warrior. And now they're making decisions are bad and becoming bloodied warriors for fucking bullshit. I don't know why I'm so passionate about it. It just pisses me off.
Well, I wonder if something more will come of this, then if it will lead to anything bigger, then that would be interesting to find out. Maybe you're right.
I think that it's going to spark like, oh, I can become bloodied just by killing something. You know what I mean? And totally negating their Edur customs.
We shall see.
Yeah, I think it's going to trickle into the other unbloodied warriors, and they're going to start making bullshit decisions. They're just going to like go rogue, and Brulad's not going to give a shit because he's not even a bloodied warrior either. Like I said, I don't know why I'm so pissed off about it. I just fucking am. Like, Troll saw it coming. He said something about it, and everybody just ignored it because they're pussies.
I like the heat coming for me, man.
Okay, I'm ready to move on if you are.
All right. My second to last section here, I think. The bridge was not a bridge at all. Troll had visited one other time and left only with questions. It seemed it was made from a single massive disc. Notched rose across its rim and was wide enough for 8 warriors to walk across without touching shoulders. The disc was on end, filling the gap of the gorge below where the Catter River roared. The base of the wheel was lost in the darkness. Mist rose from the dark depths. To cross to the other side, one had to walk the curved rim. The hub of the enormous rim was visible, at least 3 man lengths down. Thick rods of polished stone, straight as spear, angled out from the hub, appearing to plunge into the rock wall on the gorge's south side. The squads gathered on the north edge, looking at the opposite tree line. 2 Edur had already crossed. One had returned to report back. No signs of scouts, no evidence on recent camps. The lone Fered they had killed had seemed to have been sent far ahead of the main forces, or had taken the mission up on his own, while his courage, or intelligence, had cost him his life. Trull approached the edge of the disk where it first emerged from the rock, and like the last time he was here, he saw the milky film between the carved perfection and the rough rock of the precipice. Just like long ago, he wiped the film away, which revealed a straight line too narrow to even slide a dagger blade into. A disc in truth somehow set into the gorge itself. What was even stranger was it moved, turning in place. He knew he could step on the disc, and days or maybe weeks later he would end up on the other side, a mystery with no answer. Trull thought it was never meant to be a bridge, but built for something else. It didn't make sense to him that it was functioning solely as what immediately occurred to him the first time he visited. There were easier ways to measure time. Trull waved his warriors across, and Alrada took point. Once on the other side, they looked for cover. Trull asked Alrada what was wrong. The captain said he felt it move. Trull said Alrada's original position was on some curved rock, but covered in dust and gravel, but looked too smooth to be natural. Trull brushed it clear and found symbols carved into the stone. He didn't know the language. Delineated grooves formed an incomplete box around the writing. The base and sidelines were visible, and beneath the base, a new row of lettering was beginning to show. Trull asked again if it had moved. Alrada said yes, though it wasn't much. He was positive it had moved. Trull asked if there was a sound. Alrada said it was more felt than heard, as if something huge and buried was shifting. Trull asked if he recognized the language. Alrada looked the other way, shrugging, and said they should head down. Trull picked up on the fact he had seen the writing before. Alrada said he had seen it in ice, not stone, but it didn't matter. Trull questioned about the ice. Alrada said he once lived and hunted with Denratha in the north, deep in the ice seas. There was a wall covered in writing like this, 20 man-heights tall and half a league wide, but it sank into the sea and was gone the next season. Trull asked what he and the Denratha had thought about the writing. He said the tusked man wrote them, but it was just a myth. Trull said there was a man with tusks. Alrada said he had been seen over generations once in a while, skin gray or green and tusks white as whalebone. He was always in the north, standing on snow or ice. This was not the time. Trull sighed and said to send the squads down. Soon after, Kenarth reported smelling rotting meat, but it was only a dead owl on the trail. Well, I had a hard time with this section because I thought about this a lot. You know, like this bridge that they're talking about is obviously not a bridge. They're just using it as one. And I kept thinking, at least initially, a water wheel. And then I was thinking like a fucking spaceship stuck into the ice or something. But then I felt like it's a clock. I don't know, but it's got to be. I feel like it must be one of Ikarian's contraptions. I don't know what you think, because that's like they talk about the tusked man, and that's where I was originally thinking is that's got to be Ikarian, right? But then I was thinking, well, what if it could be Gothos, right?
Yeah, I think it's Gothos.
I had my thoughts in here where I was thinking it must be Ikarian, but then I was also thinking, well, I didn't change my thoughts, but my thinking shifted, thinking it must be Gothos.
Do you think that this disc could be any particular part of like a statue?
I didn't really get that sense. Like I said, I don't know what the fuck it was. I was thinking it was like a water wheel. And then I was like, well, it seems like a spaceship. But then they talk about measuring time. Like, well, it must be some sort of clock. I have no idea.
Yeah, I thought it was a time contraption as well.
Yeah. So that kind of, I kind of went through my few thoughts there, kind of just mashed them all together. But then at the end, we get this report of rotting meat, and it's just an owl, a dead owl on the trail. And earlier in the book, we had an owl, right?
Yep.
So I wonder what the importance of this is, or if it's just a coincidence. I don't know.
I saw this comment of yours, feel like a day or two ago. Oh, yesterday when I was writing. my last section. And I can't say that I have any thoughts outside of just it's a dead owl. I also feel like a white crow was following that owl, right? At the
I
end
don't
of.
remember. Maybe.
So maybe it's supposed to signify the death of the Edur?
I have no idea. I guess we'll see, but it's just a weird thing to throw in at the end. A dead owl on the trail, like doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Maybe the owl was secretly working for the Letherii. So now one of the unbloodied is now bloodied. I was being sarcastic.
Negated.
Yeah, it didn't land very well. Neither did the owl.
Well, the owl might have landed just fine.
All right. Well, you ready for, I think, this is the longest summarized section that we've had to date. And I know the last time it was a 4-pager, I believe, in chapter 4 of Dead House Gates.
Oh, you did the research.
No. It's just what I remember. I had to summarize a section in chapter 4. And it was like, I think 15 pages like this.
How do you fucking remember that?
Because I remember the experience.
Okay.
I'm pulling it up right now.
You walked the chain of dogs, apparently.
Yeah, I definitely walked the chain of dogs. But yeah, I remember that being a long summary because there was a lot that happened. And I feel like it was 4 pages. This is 5.
So what you read, you turned into 5 typed pages.
Correct. Out of 15. Or I think it was actually 18. 18 pages.
Well, I'll say I've been I've gotten a little tired of this book. I feel like I've been the one getting bent over a little bit.
I got really bent over.
You did. You got.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no lube available. It was in a dark alley, and I mean, you
lumberjack style for sure.
Yeah, there was an axe in each hand, and just grabbed you by the hips, and I don't know how much further I can go with this, but I'll just stop.
I got eudanast.
Eudanast.
No.
All right.
Okay.
I'll shut up.
Here we go. There were dark times for the Letherii a long time ago. The First Empire had sent vast fleets to explore the world. The coasts of all 6 continents had been charted, thousands of islands, ruins, and riches found. Ancient sorceries and fierce but ignorant tribes were encountered. Other peoples, not human, but they bled easily enough. Barghast, Trell, Tarthano, Fen, Mare, Jag, Kryn, Jek. Colonies were established on foreign coasts, inciting wars and conquests, always the latter. Until all was brought down, all was destroyed. The First Empire collapsed in on itself, and beasts arose in the midst of the cities, a nightmare growing like a plague. The Emperor who was 1 is now 7, and the 7 were scattered, lost in madness. The great cities burned, and millions of people died. The nightmare had a name, and those two words were Talan Imas. 2 words inspiring hatred and terror, but beyond those words, there was nothing. All memory of who the Talan Imas had been was lost in the chaos that would follow. Few Letherii remained even that much, or remembered even that much. They knew the name First Empire, and the collapse of that great civilization. A civilization that was their legacy. Not much else, barring the prophecy of rebirth. Eudanos could no longer say that he was ignorant to that anymore, as within the world of ghosts, the past lived on, and long-dead voices haunted him. The ticed shade Wither was indifferent to Eudanos's pleading for silence. Eudanos already knew enough horror were here among the living, and the separating old truths was not worth it. What did he care about an ancient enemy? Wither laughed with a rasp and answered his question. The dust of over 4,000 amass were currently beneath their feet. Wither is heard saying that the dust has eyes. Should the slave fear? Probably not, as the amass are not interested in rising up and slaughtering them all. The slave muttered that if they were dust, they would have a hard time accomplishing that slaughter. It was night, and Eudanos had been sent away a short time ago. He was propped up with his back to a tree overlooking the Edur encampment, The gold-smeared bastard was in a foul mood, tired from the weight he carried around, arguing with Hanan Masag, the endless logistics of moving thousands of Edur warriors and their families in tow. Wither is heard saying that the dust can rise up and take shape. Where these particular Amass were from, or who had sent them, no one knew, as the Amass don't answer their questions. There are no bonecasters among them. Wither said that they were lost as they were. Udanas was tired of listening. He had begun to doubt Wither's existence buried deep in his brain. He thought it was more likely he was going mad and just made up Wither's entire existence. An inventor of secrets, sending armies of ghosts to explain the countless voices in his skull. Of course, it would convince him otherwise, flitting across his vision, hiding in shadows. Udanas knew were not possible, but the slave knew that his eyes could play tricks on him. It was all part of the same corrupted perception. Wither hid inside the blood of the Wyval, and the Wyval hid inside the shadow of the Wraith, a game of a double negative. Nobody that matters to the slave's survival could detect either. As far as he was concerned, it was because the skeptical side of his brain wouldn't allow Wither to be real. Neither was the Wyval blood, the sword-wielding mistress of the Edur, and the hungry space between her legs, infection, and something like rape. He thought he understood the connection. He was infected, and true to Featherwitch's prediction, that unhuman blood was driving him mad. There had been no blazing white bitch that stole his seed, just fevered delusions, visions of appearing greater than he actually was, followed by the paranoia that the promised glory had been taken from him. All this explained his sordid state at the moment. Slave to an insane Edur, a slave beneath everyone's heel, cowering and useless once all the grandeur was taken away. Add on Featherwitch. He loved her, and he would never have her. Madmen built houses of solid stone, desperately trying to get inside, where comfort and perfection lay. The house looked real, and so therefore is real. With a little more effort, eventually they would get inside. Just one more collision will burst that barrier. But that was just a cycle that never ceased, the tiring ruts of madness. He heard footsteps on the stones below. Featherwitch came into view, and she came up beside him, her motions jerky as if fevered. Udanas asked a smart-ass question and wondered if it was his turn to run away now. Featherwitch didn't respond, but instead asked Udanas the Indebted to take her to the dream world, where she had found him before. Udanas said that she had been right before, and that world didn't actually exist. She said that she needed to know for herself if it was real or not. The slave said that he didn't know how. She calls him an idiot and tells him that she can open paths, and she is good at it. He asked her then what. She said that it was up to him to choose, but insisted that he take her to the ghosts. Udanas said that this was not the best place to do that. He was cut off as Featherwitch grabbed his arm. He could feel the impression of a tile between her hand and his arm. There was then fire, blinding and raging on all sides. They both went through the wall of fire. Featherwitch clambered into view, and Udanas turned to her and asked what she had done. Before she could answer, he was lifted and thrown to the ground. After he had landed, a stone sword pressed against his neck. A man stood above him and spoke words that Udanas did not understand. He could sense that the others were around and could hear that Featherwitch was thrown to the ground as well. The squat, muscled man said more things that the slave did not understand. Udanas took in the broken appearance of the man, and he didn't speak the language. The sword was then removed from the slave's neck. He stepped back and then gestured. Udanas stood up, more fur-clad figures. He observed that he was where they lived. Inside a natural basin, steeply walled on all three sides. The side that was open, to his left, the land opened out, and in the distance he saw a shattered city. He observed that the city appeared to have been pulled from the ground. Vast chunks of rotting ice were visible within the broken city. Featherwitch saw what he saw and asked him where he had brought them and who these savages were. Udanas turned to the man that spoke in the language he didn't understand. He shrugged and turned his attention back on the city. He said that he wanted to go and look. Featherwitch said that they wouldn't let him. With only one way to find out, he made his way towards the city. The warriors simply watched, and after a moment, Featherwitch was at his side. She said that the city looks as if it was just dumped here. Udanas explained that it was a Mecro city. He has never seen one, but based on the descriptions he's heard of, this was one. Plucked from the sea, the ice came with it. Featherwitch saw dark mounds all around the city. Udanas figured out that the savages buried all of the dead Mecros. She said that there were hundreds, and he added on that in each of those barrows were likely 100 bodies. Featherwitch stated that the savages likely feared disease. Udanas offered another possibility, and that the savages were compassionate people. She tells him to not be a fool, as burying the dead Mecros would have taken months. He hesitated and explained that the clan that they met was only one. There are almost 4,000 living in this region. She stopped and grabbed his arm, turning him around. She asked him to explain this. He wrestled his arm free and kept walking. He explained that these ghosts hold strong memories of their lives, of their flesh, strong enough to manifest as real. They're called Letherii Mages. Her breath caught, and she is heard saying, "The beast hold." He glanced at her and asked her to explain. She lists off members of the hold and said stealers of fire, stolen from the Aerosol. The slave recognized the Aerosol as the Narek goddess. The false goddess or so claimed by the Letherii scholars, giving them justification to conquer the Narek. He said he was shocked to discover that lie, but in any case, he asked Featherwitch about the beast hold, as he thought the images on the tiles were that of beasts. Featherwitch explained that those images were among the poorer versions, but on the oldest and purest tiles, you have images of the skins of beasts around squat figures. She takes another jab at him and tells him not to be ignorant, for he was the one that brought them here. They were approaching the barrows and could see countless objects, the possessions of those buried beneath. Featherwitch chuckled at the scene and thought it was strange that they weren't buried with their possessions. Udanas proposed it was to prevent the looters from digging and disturbing the corpses. They continued to discuss until it ended with a glare from Featherwitch. They were closer to the city now, and ingrained in the chunks of ice were chunks of rotting flesh, not human, dull scales and reptilian heads dangling from a torn neck. Featherwitch asked what they were. Udanas shook his head because he didn't know, but what he figured was the city was struck by ice, even as it was torn from their world, and it was clear that the ice held its own secret. She asked once again why he brought them here. Udanas struggled to contain his anger. Instead, he let out a long sigh. He asked her what tile she held in her hand. She replied that it was one of the fulcra, fire. She faltered a bit, but then resumed to say that when she had seen him the first time, she witnessed what Miandor had done to him. Turning away, he muttered to himself that he didn't conjure images of his own fashioning. It wasn't madness. Featherwitch, out of the blue, says that it's not fair. He was nothing, and indebted, a slave. The Wyval was meant for her. Her sudden rage made him flinch. Even as understanding took him, he forced a bitter laugh. He suspects that Featherwitch was the one that summoned it. The Wyval wanted its blood. And it had her and should have infected her, but it didn't. It chose him. And if he could, he would give it to her. He told her to be thankful the blood does not run in her veins. It was in truth the curse she said it was. Featherwitch started to blurt out that it was better to be cursed than. She stopped and looked away. Udanas studied her pale face. He put it together and finished the sentence for her. A slave born of a slave, doomed to listen to dreams of freedom, a word she didn't understand, nor would she ever. He asks Featherwitch if the tiles were to be her way out. not taken in service to her fellow Letherii, but 100% for herself. He tells her, for what it's worth, a curse is not freedom. Every path is a trap to entangle her in games beyond her understanding. Those forces probably prefer slaves when they seek out the use of mortals, because slaves already understand the relationship. She glared at him and asked him, why him? Udanos said that because he was not the one dreaming of freedom. She switched the subject and asked if they were really in this world. Udanos said he doubted it, or he didn't doubt it. Featherwitch asked if they could stay. The slave asked for her to tell him, as in the world of the tiles? Featherwitch said that it was the realm of his dreaming, wasn't it? He hid his grimace and then said that he had tried to warn her. They continued on with their conversation until it ended with Udanos shaking his head in response and then turned to study the ruined city. He stated that this destruction and slaughter was a terrible thing to do. Featherwitch wondered out loud if in some way they deserved it. He replied that whether someone deserves something should never be asked. It invites judgment, and evil atrocities in the form of justice bring on their own atrocities. She tells him he lives soft in a hard world. After more words between them, he suggests that they go back. They made their way back to the waiting savages and their villages. When they walked back into the basin, something had changed. There were 4 women, and with them was a young boy, and he was human. The warrior who had spoken before spoke to the boy in the language that Featherwitch or Udanos could not understand. The man pointed at both of them and said, Letherii? Udanos asked the boy if he understood him. The boy said, a little. The slave asked if the boy was Mekros. He said some. But his mother and father were indebted Letherii, and they had run to freedom to live with the Mekros. Udanos pointed at the city and asked if that was the boy's home. The boy replied that it was some of his home. He took the hand of one of the women attending him and said, here. The woman asked what his name was, and the boy replied that it was Rud Alal, or Alali. Udanos looked at Featherwitch. Rud meant found in the Mekros language. He, of course, realized that Featherwitch would not know that. He said in the trader's language the boy's name, found Alal, and asked if he could understand Udanos better. The boy's face brightened and said yes, and asked if Udanos was a sailor like his father was. Udanos asked if these people around him had rescued him from the city. Found said yes, and that they were been tracked, but asked if Udanos knew anything about that. Udanos shook his head and asked if there were any other survivors. Found said that they were all dead, or dying and then dead. Found was then asked how he survived. The boy explained that he was playing, and then there were loud noises and then a crack. He found himself sliding towards the crack filled with ice fangs. He was going to die like everyone else. Then he struck a pair of legs. She was standing as if the street was still level. Udanos questioned the word she. Featherwitch interjected that she was starting to catch up on the language. The boy said that she was white fire and tall. She had reached down and picked him up. He heard her say, oh no, he won't. They were walking through the air, floating until they eventually made it here. She was cursing profusely. The question was asked, either by Featherwitch or Udanos, if she had said anything else outside of the swearing. The boy repeated what he had heard, something about working hard on this baguette, and the damned legless bastard wasn't going to ruin her plans, and that he'd pay for this. The boy asked what baguette mean. Featherwitch ties the pieces together. Inside Udanos's head, he thought one word, and that was no. She continues to say that the boy had remarkable eyes, and that they must be hers, for Udanos's eyes were too dull, but that mouth? Udanos managed to take back control of the conversation and asked the boy how old he was when the ice broke the city. The boy replied that he was 7 weeks, and that mother said he was growing so fast. Udanos turned to look at Featherwitch, and her smile was strangely broken. The Ben-tracked warrior spoke, and Found said that Ulshun Paul had a question for them. Udanos said to go on ahead. It is translated that the woman asked Ulshun Paul to find out if Found will eat them all when he gets older. They want to know what dragons eat and want to know if they should be afraid. Udanos starts to respond, but then stops himself as he's realizing that they don't realize that they're dead. Instead of revealing this truth to them, he tells the boy to translate back to not worry about it. Prawl explains that the women promised to take care of Found until she came back. Ulshun also asked if his own language if Udanos was Found's father. After seeing Found shake his head no, the slave demanded to know what Ulshun had asked. Found explained that his father was dead and that Udanos was not his father. His father was named Arak Alao. He died in Letherii. Featherwitch tells Udanos to tell him the truth. Udanos said that he can't. Featherwitch asked if Udanos would leave him to that woman. Udanos asked what she would have them do. Take Found with them? They couldn't, because they're not really here. The boy said that Ulshun Pun is understanding them now. Some, at least. And he explains to the pair there are holes, and they should go there now. Udanos asked what that meant. Featherwitch explained that Ulshun means gates. She has been sensing them, and that they were powerful. Udanos said, all right, and Found said he would take them there, but wasn't a fan of the place. They strode into one of the caves. Deeper into the caverns they went. They saw images of beasts, some portrayed as fallen with spears jutting from their forms. Further in, there were crude stick drawings, the masses' attempt at self-portraits. The path narrowed and they were ascending. Ahead they saw a vertical fissure, spilling light inward. They emerged into a clearing. In the center was a squat, 12-sided tower. Each face was smooth, yet light in countless colors flared beneath each of the faces, each plane spiraling inward to a dark hole. Udanos could feel tight pressure, as if taut forces held a balance. Ulshun spoke in his language and Found translated. Ulshun explains that they had come here with a bonecaster. It was a realm of storms, and beasts, countless beasts coming from those holes. They did not know what they were, but there was much fighting. Ulshun went on with Found translating. The bonecaster realized that the breaches must be sealed, and drew upon a stone in the earth that rose into her new eternal body to stand before the holes. She holds all with stillness standing there now, and stands there for all time. Udanos asked if the bonecaster's sacrifice had stranded them all here. It was translated by that Ulshun had said yes, but they are content where they are. It continued to say that this land was a path, what they call a road. Herds migrate back and forth. They seem to come from nowhere, but they always come. Udanos thought to himself that because, like the Letherii Mass, these beasts were ghost memories. Featherwitch asked if the road led here, and came from where. The boy sighed and crossed his arms. In translating the response from Ulshun, he said that they were in an overflow. Where the road comes from has bled out to claim the road itself. Around them, they are surrounded by nothing. Featherwitch deduced that they were within a realm and asked which hold claimed this place. Found translated that Ulshun was pleased that she knew of holds. Ulshun Pun calls this hold Starvalad Demelane. Scowling, Featherwitch said she did not recognize the name. The Letherii Mass spoke again, and in words there seemed to be a list. Then a second list. He heard words that he recognized, or names he recognized. The boy shrugged as he translated the list. The pure dragons. Tiam, Kals, Solana, Empelas, Akaros, Karosis, Soret, Etrahal, Eloth, Enthrus, Kesselban, Alkend, Karatalid, Korbas, Olar, Eliant. The place where the road comes from is closed. Closed by the mixed bloods who gathered long ago. Dracronus, Cruel, Anomandaris, Osirk, Silchus Ruin, Scavendari, Sheltalor, Sakul Ankadu, and Meandor. It was Meandor that saved the boy. Found continued to translate, and Ulshan said that they should be able to pass through from here, and he looks forward to seeing them again. They were asked if they were coming back. Featherwitch said, if they can. She turned to Udanas and asked if they could. The slave scowled and asked how he should know. How was he supposed to know? She told him to be gracious, and he asked to who? Them or her? She responded with both, especially his son. He didn't want to hear it anymore, and chose to study the faceted tower instead. Not a single path, but multiple. 12 other worlds, then. He wondered what they would be like. What kind of creatures populated them? Perhaps all that demon meant was a creature torn from its world, bound like a slave to be used as a tool. When that use was made useless, it would be discarded. He thought to himself that he was tired of sympathy, or at least feeling it. Be gracious, she said. He thought it was rich coming from her. He looked down at his son. Just a seed. It was just his seed. She took nothing else. It must have been the Wyval blood that drew her in. Growing too fast must be a trait of dragons. No wonder the Talanimas women were frightened. He sighed and then thanked Found and Ulshan Prawl. He turned towards Featherwitch and asked if she knew which path to take. She replied that their flesh would draw them back. She took him by the hand and said they needed to hurry, as they didn't know how much time had passed in their world. They raced past the stone figure. She said dream worlds, and to imagine the sights they would see if they were able to choose. Udanas said that they weren't dream worlds, and that they are real. In those places, they are the ghosts. She snorted and said nothing. Udanas turned for a final glance. The boy, Found, the combination of slave and draconic-blooded woman, raised by neither. At the boy's side were savages that still believed they were alive. Udanas couldn't decide which was more pathetic. Seeing them as he did now, they both broke his heart, and there seemed no way to separate the two. He thought that grief had flavors. He swung around and said that she could take them back now. Her hand tightened on his, and she led them into a wall of flaring light.
Nice job, dude.
Woo!
That was a fucking marathon for sure.
I hope that made sense, though, right?
I think you did good. I think we would both agree that that is probably the best section in the chapter.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. All right, well, you ready for another marathon?
Yeah, let's start it up here.
There's so many fucking comments.
I got my book here ready, so you told me I was going to have to read something. So
Yep. I'll tell you when we get there.
All right. What page do I need?
I will tell you when we get there.
Beep, 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 beep.
Drink another beer!
I'm working on it. This is my third.
Goddamn, dude. The very beginning, the way that the section opens up, there were dark times for the Letherii a long time ago. The first empire had sent vast fleets to explore the world. And now, I'm assuming, and that this is probably right based on some of the stuff that comes afterwards, but do you think these two sentences are made to relate? Are the Letherii descendants of the first empire? And their ancestors just chose to stay on this particular continent, Lether, right? Isolated from the rest of their party or empire. So there are similarities with the whole conquest bit. The Letherii seem to have ties to their ancient ways. Like the sins of the father are told by the son, you know? The Letherii conquered the surrounding areas, right? After deciding to stay here.
I don't know. Sorry, ma'am.
What do you mean you don't know? You don't think that they're meant to be tied together?
I'm not sure I'm following.
Do you think that the Letherii are ancestors descendants from the first empire based on this first part.
I think they must be, right? Like they had to split off at some point.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense.
I probably could have probably just summarized it like that, but this next one's kind of a doozy, so just try to follow along.
Oh boy.
So they're talking about the first empire collapsing in on itself, right? And from that collapse, beasts rose in the midst of the cities, a nightmare growing like a plague. This is kind of two theories. The collapse of an empire could be for many reasons, right? Not typically because of an outside force, but that usually that outside force is typically just like the final blow, right? Political instability, economic ruin, overextension on conquered lands, and social fragmentation. Now, I think when Erickson is saying the first empire collapsed, he's alluding to all of that, especially overextension of conquered lands and social fragmentation. We get a few examples of this, and before I continue, I do believe we've had evidence that there are two first empires, maybe more, as it's likely each culture might call themselves the first empire, right?
Yeah, we've had the Tlan and then like the human one, right?
Right. This one is purely around the Talani mass. Because the section starts off with telling us about the conquering of continents, which is an example of overextension, thus concluding that social fragmentation occurred, as communication cannot stay consistent with other emass, right? Or even with the First Empire, because everybody's so fragmented, partakes in a collapse of an empire. And also, when you socially fragment, your culture within those small groups changes, and it no longer aligns with what it used to be, right? Here's where I'm conflicted. Here's theory number 2, is because my other theory is that this is the first empire of Disemblecus. And from what I understand from House of Chains is that Kalava birthed humans, which establishes the Talani mass as the older of the two, which I'm sure we all have that headcanon. This section does also reference other cultures at the very top, where I listed off like Barghast and Fen.
Yeah.
From what I understand from Memories of Ice is that we were informed that the Barghast were descendants of the Amass. And I can assume maybe the other races listed there as well. So if I combine that theory with the statement, until all was brought down, beasts rose in the midst of cities, a nightmare growing like a plague, it tells me that the Amass used the instability of the First Empire to their advantage and smited their children down, as it was alluded to in House of Chains.
It's pretty fucking dark, dude.
Yeah, so I actually think that it's the second. I think what they're talking about is the Letherii are descendants of the First Empire humans.
The Letherii are descendants of the First Empire humans?
In my timeline, you've got Talani Mass, and they are the parents of Barghast, Fen, XYZ, and humans are also on that as well. And so the First Empire of humans, Letherii is underneath that hierarchy. Because at the very beginning, they're talking about ignorant tribes encountered, other peoples not human. So in order for the First Empire to conquer these not human tribes, they would have to exist first. So therefore it tells me that it's not the Talani mass they're talking about, but actually the First Empire of Disemblecus.
Okay. We'll see what happens.
It is extremely confusing, but I think that the Talani mass are the grandfather of the Letherii. The humans are the parents. That makes any fucking sense.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
And then, we get this weird thing that says the emperor who was 1 is now 7, and the 7 were lost, scattered, lost in madness. This immediately makes me think of the 7 faces in the rock. Because if I recall back in House of Chains, I believe Sabal had something to do with the soul taken Divers. And I get the feeling that these 7 were the ones that caused that collapse. And their fellow Emas did not approve of the devastation of their offspring. I don't know, but their fellow people, their fellow Emas extricated them for their crimes, thus making the 7 flawed and drawing the eyes of the crippled god. Again, just a theory.
It's kind of a lot right now. Sorry.
Too many beers?
Maybe. But even if I didn't, still maybe.
They name the nightmare as Talani Mass, right?
Yes.
So I think again, the subversion is Erickson is trying to say that the Talani Mass destroyed themselves, and they very well could have. But I think that this is alluding to the First Empire had some issues within itself, and the Amass are the ones that struck down the final blow. All that to just say that. So I guess maybe I could have shortened it.
You're good.
And then there's this part where they're like barring the prophecy of rebirth. Rebirth of the First Empire? The Empire of Disembalekus? Or are we talking something else? Because this immediately makes me think of our current situation with the Edur and their rebirth. And I'm not crazy to believe that this isn't a way to connect the Edur with the First Empire, right? Like, the Edur are not human. And from what I understand, is prior to the Talani Mass ritual, the Talan were early humans.
Or human-esque, I guess.
I don't know, man. I feel like the Talani Mass are not human.
All I can think of them is just like in their skeletal form.
Yeah. I don't think that this is trying to connect the Edur to the Empire of Disembalekus, because the Edur are not human. They're non-human. But it's weird, this whole barring the prophecy of rebirth. I don't really know what that means. Does that mean that the First Empire will be reborn and we just haven't read that yet? There's nothing in the books we've read that I can say talks about that. So I can only go to our current situation, which is the Edur.
I have no idea what's going to happen, dude. But I will say, like, I don't think anything would surprise me.
There's a lot of mystery with a lot of this stuff because, again, there isn't a lot of contextual information. And it gets confusing because there are probably more than one First Empire. So which one is he really talking about? Just based on the small clues that I have, it kind of makes it sound like the Amass attacked their children. And then some of them were punished for making that decision. And so therefore became the faces in the rock. And then, Withers talking about the Talani Mass in the form of dust. Withers said that they were lost as they were. And based on what we learn in House of Chains, this makes sense. And I'm wondering if this is the beginning of the crippled gods' alliance with the Amass. But do you think it's all of the Amass or just some that have aligned with the crippled god?
I don't know that all of them have aligned themselves. I guess maybe that's where I would lean. I don't know what you think.
That's what I would say. Yeah, I don't think it's all of them. I think it's a group or a clan. Sure. And then this part where Udanas is like, I'm tired of listening. And then he goes on to this like internal monologue about he's questioning his sanity. And I really enjoyed that part because, I mean, who wouldn't under these circumstances question their sanity and everything that's happened to them, right? I think this is the beautiful part of Erickson's creation, is that this is not a reality with our biology, but yet to make it appear that it could exist, make it believable, right? You can actually empathize with what's going through him. And I just think that is brilliant. We're never in our biology going to be taken to some weird realm and get raped, right?
No, hopefully.
Right. We are not going to have dragon blood poisoning our veins, right? Like, but you can still empathize with this thing that he's going through. And I just think that that's genius, right?
Nice call out, man. That's good.
So again, we get a call about the sword wielding mistress of the Edur and the hungry space between her legs. Well, we know that's Mianador. So there's one mistress of the two, and I think this confirms what you were thinking earlier. So maybe it is the two mistresses are Menandor and Seren Paddock. How Seren is a mistress, I don't know.
That doesn't have anything to do with the spoiler you saw?
Nope.
You could be lying to me.
No, I'm not. Scout's honor. It's way more insignificant than that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. But I don't know how she would be one, but who the fuck knows? I don't know.
All we can do is read it on and find out.
Right. It nailed it.
Wow, she nailed him.
Okay, buddy.
This analogy of stone houses inside lays perfection and comfort, and the house looks real, so therefore it is real. But there isn't. This house has no, like, you can't get in, so you're desperately trying to break in. And I loved this analogy. For one goes through and the dance between illogical and logical, trying to figure out which is the right path, where sanity is actually real and where it's not. So I just thought that was a really cool analogy.
I don't have anything to add for you, man. Another good call out.
Rotting ice. I had no idea that this was actually a thing. And it brought a whole new visualization to the scene at hand here. We're back to the shattered ruin. Yeah.
We've heard that term before, though.
Yeah, but I didn't know that it was actually a thing. I just thought it was like melting ice.
Okay. That's fair.
Featherwitch was asked him where he had brought them and like who these people were around her. And I'm like, wasn't it she that brought them? Because she had the tile, and isn't she the one who can open paths? So it's just Featherwitch really pissed me off in this chapter, particularly this section.
Okay.
And this is part of it. I mean, did you feel perturbed by the things that she was saying or doing?
Not particularly.
You didn't find it like antagonizing or annoying?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I was just kind of like, it was a little overwhelming, all of this.
Yeah. So they're talking about this ruined Mekros city, right? It looks as if it was plucked from the sea and the ice came with it, or the ice had a collision with it. Do you think that this could be the Mekros city we see at the end of Memories of Ice? Somehow it makes its way from this realm to Genebacus? Because that Mekros city was empty as fuck, if I recall, right?
Yes, I don't remember if there was like mounds or anything.
No, those are around on the land that they're currently occupying. The
Gotcha.
Mekros city itself does not have any mounds on it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I wonder if that may be where it ends up. How or why, I don't know.
Stranger things have happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So Udanos is like, he figured that the city was struck by ice, intending that there was like a purposeful collision. And even if it was torn from their world, it was clear that the ice held its own secret. Okay, so here's another crazy-ass theory coming your way. And it also comes in multiple stages, so just hear me out.
All right. I'm ready. I've listened.
Remember in the prologue where Gothos and Mael are joking about their powers? Well, it seems to me that Mael and Gothos combine their powers to essentially freeze a flood. I think we talked about this earlier. So what if whoever lifted the city and dropped it or ripped it out of whatever force was applied, the city hit or went through this ice that Gothos and Mael used to freeze the remnants of the battle between the Andi, Edur, and the Kinchain Jamal warriors. If I combine that theory with the one earlier about the Mekros city being the one at the end of Memories of Ice, You think this could be how the undead Cal hunters arrive on Genebacus? Think that this Mecro Cities was placed on Genebacus by the Child of Morn? There's so much here that relates to the other books, and it should be because this is the precursor to all we've read so far.
Dude, that's a hell of a theory.
Yeah, but there's reptilian body parts inside this rotten ice, right? And this Mecro City, what if, for whatever reason, wherever the city was plucked from, it went through whatever Gothos and Mael froze in the prologue, and chunks of that ice with those bodies inside of it. You know what I mean? Like, and then maybe, the Panion Seer, which we end up knowing is the boy child from Morn, like, finds a way to bring that here. That's why the Mecro City is empty. I don't know. Just so many different fucking thoughts, man.
Yeah.
All right. They're talking about, Featherwitch is kind of being a bitch, and so like, oh, well, why you? Why not me? I was the one who called it. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Udanas, in his wisdom, is like, you know what? Those forces probably prefer slaves when they seek out the use of mortals. More or less kind of referring to like gods and ascendants. And I'm like, you know what? It kind of seems like Featherwitch needs a conversation with Ganos Paran or Gruntle. Like, holy fuck. Like, these two would put her in her place because they know
They probably would.
what it's like to be used by gods.
True.
I already talked about this, but I'm not a fan of Featherwitch. Just not a fan. I won't go deeper because I already talked about it.
Fair.
And
fair.
Again, the atrocities in the form of justice bring on its own atrocities. And it kind of seems like the central theme in this book. Cultures, races, seeking justice. We're reading and somewhat comprehending the atrocities that have already taken place.
Was that the quote where it was like, don't ask whether it was justified or however it was worded? I don't remember exactly.
Yeah,
I like that.
Justice, or someone deserves something, should never be asked. It invites judgment and evil and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah. We're a little bit of ways. We got like a few more comments yet before I tell you to go take a read. The woman asked what his name was, and the boy replied that it was Rudd Alal. I had a hard time figuring out who was asking. I wasn't sure how found taking the woman's hand had anything to do with the events that led on afterwards. So that part is probably may or not be right or not right. I guess it really doesn't matter. But it was the order of events was really confusing. I didn't know if it was like he was tugging on the woman's arm so that it would prompt her to ask his name, which would then tell Udanas what language to speak in. So it was just summarizing it. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Not beneficial to anything, really. Just
Sure.
Do you remember what a Ben tract is?
No.
It's a clan of a mass. I feel like in Gardens of the Moon, when Tool like lists off all the clans, this is one of them.
Okay.
Yeah. But I could have swore in Memories of Ice, there was somebody talking about like Talani Mass that were stranded somewhere. And that's kind of what's happening here.
Was it Memories of Ice or was it House of Chains where they were talking about the IMS on another continent getting their ass kicked?
Well, there was that one too. That was at the end of Memories of Ice. But I feel like there was another part somewhere in one of the books that we read where they were like IMS stranded and somebody needed to go like rescue them or something like that. Maybe I'm mixing up the two. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
It's all good. The boy is kind of describing what happened to Udanas and Featherwitch. He tells them that he heard her or Mianador say, "Oh no, he won't." I get the sense that she intervened here, or defiling the attempts to what seems like is something she put in place. And it just kind of made me like the whole prod and pull thing that, because it sounds like, I mean, obviously she stole the seed to create this kid, right? And the Macro City being fucked with probably intervened with her plans, right?
Probably.
Baguette. I did not know what this meant, but from this one word and figuring out, or looking up the definition of it, it threw me for a loop until I looked up what it meant, and from there everything else made sense afterwards. Baguette is create like son, offspring, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So the boy is like, repeating what he heard, something about working hard on this baguette, right? So Mianandor worked hard. I don't know how hard, what else she had to do outside of taking Udanas's seed. But like it essentially tells us that she created this child. And then earlier, the whole part where like, oh no, he won't, right? Tells me that she created this child and now something is happening to thwart or kill this child, right? But she saves him in the nick of time, and then after that, we get this damned legless bastard, right? And I'm like, who the fuck is this? Do you know?
I was thinking the same. I'm looking at your comment. I was thinking the same thing. Or, well, what the? There's the other dude, not Silgar, because Silgar lost his arms and legs.
Because
But
of Karza.
there was that dude in House of Chains, the beggar that has all the, like, oh, help me, we'll go look for gold or whatever. I don't remember what his name was. There's that dude. He was missing legs but had his arms. He was early in the book and then at the end.
I don't remember.
I don't remember his name, but
Is this the one with that had cancer in his testicles or whatever?
yes.
That was end of Memories of Ice. The beginning of Memories of Ice and the end of Memories of Ice.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
I
that's
feel
what
like
I
it
was
starts
thinking.
with a P.
Well, that's who I thought of anyways.
Munug.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Munug. No.
Not a P.
Yeah, I was off. But yeah, I think out of all of those that we likely guessed, it is probably the Crippled God, because I don't think we've ever heard him or read him described as standing. He's always sitting and like covered in cloth, right? So what if during the fall he lost his legs?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so this is where I want you to whip out your book.
Got it.
I want you to open it up to probably either page 27 or 28.
27.
Or 28.
Okay. I don't know where the fuck you're going with this, but I want to know how you remember this.
So it's the last section of the prologue where we meet Withel.
Okay.
On that very first page, at the very bottom, it reads, "And the night before, mountains of ice rising up from the depths. One, the largest of them all, reaching the surface directly beneath the vast floating Macro City." Do you see that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So read what comes after that.
Breaking it apart as if it were a raft of sticks, Mekro's histories recounted nothing remotely like the devastation he had seen wrought. Sudden and virtually absolute annihilation of a city that was home to 20,000. Disbelief still tormented him, as if his own memories held impossible images, the conjuring of a fevered brain. But he knew he had imagined nothing. He had but witnessed, and somehow survived.
Okay. So what are Udanas and Featherwitch observing here? They're talking to
the destruction of a city?
A Macro City.
Yes.
So is it possible that Found is actually Withel?
I don't know.
Because later on, I think it's the next page over, when they're talking to the Crippled God, they talk about it, and Withel's like, "I am Withel of the third Macro City, which is now no more." The Crippled God goes, "A tragic event. You are the lone survivor. Through my own efforts, though it much strained my powers to intervene." So this is where I'm thinking, and this is where like it probably gets a little confusing, because if Withel and Found are the same, what happened first? Because it sounds like the Crippled God intervened based on the prologue on what Meanandor did to create the child. But they're both can't be lone survivors of a Mecro city crashing into ice, and they be two separate events, right? Like, are there two survivors? Or is it single survivors of two catastrophic events with the same collision in the same town? You know what I mean?
Seems unlikely.
So there's something there. I don't know what it is because it doesn't make sense as far as like a order of operations, right?
Sure.
So like, did Meanandor come first? She created, found / Withel. They may not even be the same person. I don't know. And then the crippled god intervened, but then Meanandor intervened again, therefore saying, oh no, he won't, right? But then does the crippled god do something else after that?
I don't know.
You know, I mean, intervening could mean multiple instances, right? It kind of
Potentially.
seems like there's a fight for found / Withel, right?
Yeah.
You know, it even says in the prologue that Withel doesn't recall the things that happened, right? Which would mean that he doesn't remember meeting his father, Udanos. But that also means that Withel is part dragon. He's part Eliant. But if he can also create swords, maybe there's dragon blood inside the sword. And that is the power that the Edur are now like drawing upon. I don't know. There's so many fucking connections, dude. Like, but yeah, that was the like bleh, when I realized that they're potentially connected. Like, and it even told us all the way back in the fucking prologue.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then obviously we got to talk about the last name Allow here because we hear it a couple of times. And it seems that that's a Mecros name, right? So maybe in some weird way, Shirk Allow is Found's mother because he says his mother and father died or dead. You know, maybe Shirk is a lost spirit.
There's got to be some connection somehow.
Right.
Something. I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah. You had a thought.
I did as you were reading the self-portrait thing, because didn't we see in, I don't remember if it was Memories of Ice or House of Chains, but wasn't there an eye mask? Like, wasn't that part of the deal? Like, they drew a picture, and that was a really big deal.
Oh, yeah, Onrak the Broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, he drew this very realistic version of Kalava.
Right. So why would drawing his self-portrait be any different?
Because these were like stick figures. These were not. It's like watching violence in a cartoon versus watching the many faces of death. Because they're stick figures. They're crude, rudimentary drawings of themselves. So there's nothing to really be pissed about because it's bad art. You know, but then when you portray Kalava in all of her nudeness in a realistic manner is going to come across a lot different than a stick figure with 2 circles for boobs, right?
I guess. I think it seems like a blurry line, but I see where you're going.
Yeah. Okay, I feel like there's only a couple more left here. Now we're at the very end where they're talking about, the Bonecaster who basically sacrificed herself to seal this 12-sided tower. She holds with all the stillness standing there now and stands there for all time. So when we first get introduced to this like plane, it's said that there's like rock formations that lead to like a spiral of rocks, and then inside of that rock is a cairn shaped like a woman. So that woman must be the sculpture in the middle of the room to be in front of that 12-faced tower.
I missed that, I guess. Yeah, sorry, that is not that's not ringing any bells. But what I did think about was it Dead House Gates, where the one, it goes up from the Solanda?
Yeah.
That's what it made me think of.
Wait, what?
The Telanimus, like, what's his face was going to do it, but he didn't know what he was doing, so that he was going to take the place. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's what it made me think of.
Yeah, I totally forgot about him. They emerged onto an uneven but mostly level sweep of blackened bedrock. Small boulders set end to end formed an avenue of approach from the cave mouth that led them on an inward spiral towards the center of the clearing. Beyond, the sky shimmered with swirling colors. A cairn of flat stone dominated the central of the spiral, in the rough, awkward form of a figure standing on two legs made of stacked stones, a single broad one forming the hips, the torso made of three more, the arms, blah, 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 blah. The crude figure stood before a squat tower. I'm guessing that is the Bonecaster. My last question is for you. I'm sure you've seen this. But out of this list of pure dragons, which one do you think is the Otaterel?
Corrosis.
Why you say that?
Because I think it's the fucking coolest name.
Or do you think it's because Otaterel corrodes sorcery?
Didn't enter my mind, but sure, we can go with that.
Okay. All right. Well, I obviously can't pick the same one.
You could.
I could. Well, I know it's not Tiam or Solana. All the other ones I don't recognize. I'm going to go Kara Talon.
All right.
We're probably both wrong. It's probably not even listed here.
Yeah. I don't know. Corrosis just jumps out at me.
Huh. Okay, well, that was all of the comments that I had on that richly dense section.
I would say that was a pretty healthy discussion.
I would say so too. I wish that I would have worded things better. It's just in the moment that I'm writing this stuff.
Yeah, no, I think you're good, man. All right, well, we'll wrap this up here.
Take it home. Coming up around on what, 4 hours?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, didn't we start this at like 6:30? It's about that.
I think it was closer to 7. Still. The one called Twilight by the soldiers under her command, who possessed the ancestry of the long-vanished indigenous fishers of Fent Reach, for that was what her name meant, stood on a wall along the north coast tower and looked out on the Napa Sea. Behind her was a road that left from the base of the tower and cut a straight path 2 leagues into the forest, then a 3rd league of farmland to end at the crossroads directly before the inland gate of the fortified city of Fent Reach. She was about to take this road with all haste. Beside her was the local Finad. The man called her Atri Preda and said he would assemble the squads. She said to hold on a minute. He still had a choice to make. She asked how many Edur ships he estimated they looked at. He said 800 to 900 of their raiders. The oversized transports, well, he hadn't seen those before. Maybe 500? Twilight said the transports were like theirs, and theirs held 500 soldiers each, and 1 full supply ship in every 5. If they assumed the same ratio here, there were 400 full of Edur warriors, so that's 200,000. Then assume the raiders carry another 100 soldiers, so that's another 90,000. So the force that is going to land before them is just about 300,000 strong. The local Finad agreed. Twilight said 5,000 landed outside First Maiden Fort this morning. The skeleton garrison there took every horse they could and rode for Fent Reach, where she has her garrison. The Finad said that then they can conclude that this is the majority of the Edur force, maybe even their entire population headed towards their suicidal mission. Twilight said they could assume no such thing. They have never known the Edur population. The Finad said they could hold Fent Reach for weeks. In that span of time, a relieving army will have arrived, and they can crush the Edur bastards. She said her mage cadre was in the city, 1 who was never sober, and the other 2 hell-bent on killing each other. Also, did he see the darkness in the water? The residents of Trate know it well, and what it is. He asked what she was saying. She said to either ride back with her with his soldiers, or he could surrender to the force that lands. The man's jaw slowly dropped. Twilight said she was surrendering Fent Reach. He said they could fall back to Trate. She said no, they couldn't. A 3rd fleet had already arrived in the Catter Sea. They were cut off. The Finad said, "Errant, take us." Twilight said, "If only he could." The questions were over, and her city was about to be conquered again. Damn. I know I texted you at some point, and I said this chapter felt like the D-Day invasion, and this is it. Like, it's the landing force, man. It's the U.S. hitting Omaha Beach here, ready to do what they got to do.
Yep, and it sounds like they can't go anywhere because the Edur got them surrounded.
Yeah, a little different scenario than D-Day, but yeah. Gave me a similar feeling anyways. And then, Twilight says she's going to surrender the forts, right? And, part of me just kind of hopes that the Edur don't accept it and just wipe the floor with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think no quarter given, like Troll was saying.
Right.
No quarter given.
That was kind of the only thought here I had on that last section. Is just I hope they just murder the shit out of them. Yeah, I mean it's maybe this leads us into our next topic about what'll happen next. But yeah, I think we're gonna start to see some skirmishes, right? Like things are starting to take off, and I'm not sure what percentage we are through. I mean, we got to be 70 to 75%, I would guess. Set current page. I am at 592. According to this, we are 63% done. Yeah, that was close. That was in the ballpark. Yeah, so maybe within the next chapter or two, whatever I have heard about Seren will be revealed. So we won't have to wait until the end. Yeah, whenever we get to that point, you'll have to let me know what it was. I'm just curious. Yeah. So, I can does it. Well, that was a pretty good chapter. Yes, it was a good chapter. And now we can finally read on. Yes. June 2nd was the last time we recorded. So we've been 3 weeks sitting on this chapter for a minute, but I think we needed it. I needed it. You did. It took me a minute probably took me about three separate days to write that last one. We'll see what this next one brings us. That's what I'm hoping for. I think it's just under 30 pages, something like that. Oh, okay. Well, that's manageable. I'm probably not going to read it. I'm going to eat something and go to bed. So. Yeah, I will probably delve a little bit. But yeah, dude. Well, it was good talking to you, buddy. I'm glad we got to do this. It felt like it had been a minute. I mean, it has, but we're busy. Both got elevated responsibilities at our jobs, families. We'll get to it when we get to it. We'll see when we get to this next one here. Yeah, absolutely. Well, enjoy your sleep and eat. See you next time. Sounds good, man. Have a good night. Good talking to you. It was a lot of fun, and we'll do it again soon. As always. Bye, sir.
DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest.